Turnbull, I'm the mayor. I'm kind of your master of ceremonies tonight, so I will make sure you know what to do, when to do it, and the whole bit. We will start this meeting by everybody rising. Yeah, they're queued up back there. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance if we could. Usually we had the Boy Scouts. I thought there'd be a lot of people here tonight, so no Boy Scouts. We didn't have the rooms. So let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So when you came in, on the wall to the right, there's an agenda. If you wanted to get that, it's sitting there. Don't worry, I will let you know what's going on the agenda. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And if we could take the roll call, clerk, I'd appreciate it.
Mayor Turnbull. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Morosky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember Krenz.
Here. Outstanding. We have a full quorum here tonight. So now we're meeting under the policies and procedures of the governor's office, and we give 3 minutes of public comment. That's about 50% more than most of the municipalities around here. It's not a Q&A, it's public comment when we get to that, and I will walk you through that and the whole bit. If it's on the agenda tonight, we will ask you to wait until it's on the agenda. I think we're going to talk about things that are not on the agenda, so I'll make sure you know that. So with that, I'm going to first go through, we're on number 3, the approval of the agenda. We have a new package tonight. It's all online now. I call it's kind of Mod Squad. You can make different notes on it. It goes back and forth. This is the first meeting that we can do that. And because of that, we've changed the agenda around a little bit. So we are doing the agenda, everything on it. And then we're going to go through the consent agenda. We want to bring anything up. I'll ask our city manager to go through the consent agenda in a second. But with that, I'm looking for what we have tonight. Go right ahead.
I would like to request that because we have a change from a staff report on the item, it is special event request Friday night concert.
5L. Yeah, 5L.
5L. I would like to request that be moved to the end of new business so that we can substitute this.
Okay.
So
you would like that added to the new business area?
Correct.
Okay. So that would be F at this moment in time. Okay, got you.
But we're doing the consent agenda.
Yeah, we're not
We're gonna
quite
do
there
that.
yet, but we're going to do the
Yes.
consent agenda next. We might add some more
So
at that point.
Yeah, so then when we get to that, if something's moved and then it goes back.
That's correct.
you could pull something at that point.
Bear with us. This is the first time on the new agenda cycle here. So we've done this for about 197 years now. We're going to do it a little bit different here tonight. So from that, so now I'm looking for approval of the agenda that you have in front of you. Is there any deletions or additions to the main agenda here tonight?
Well, based on what I'm hearing, George just said, that's the consent agenda.
Right, that's a consent agenda.
So we're not,
That's
there is
correct.
no amendment,
Nope.
there's no change to the agenda until we're there.
So I asked for it to be removed just so everyone was aware of that.
Okay.
When we get to the consent agenda, I will read the consent agenda. At that point,
Okay.
the mayor can ask for anything else to be removed, and then a council member can say, I would like something removed to business
Yeah.
agenda.
Yep.
Or something added to the
Right.
consent agenda. We have one item to be added to
Added to consent.
the HDC.
Yes,
Okay.
it's there.
So, okay, this
right.
is just new. Usually we do those
Correct.
at the same
Got
time.
it.
So
I'll be asking in a minute for you to go through everything on the consent agenda. We might add some things from the consent, put them right up to the agenda. Is that clear?
yes,
Motion
Excellent.
to approve the agenda.
That's what I'm looking for. Do we have support for that motion?
support.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Great, we have an agenda. So now we're on to public comment. So tonight, if you're here to talk about anything that's on the agenda, and on the agenda is amusement and entertainment activities under the codes, that's 9A. I'd wait for you to ask to talk about it then. I'm sure you're not going to talk about that. Proposed equipment purchase, electronic mobile parking. I know that's a hot one. I'm sure you're not going to talk about that, but wait for that. The third, contract for Orchard Drive. We're actually going to do some pavement on this side of town. If you're here to talk about Orchard Drive, I will ask you then. Proposed services for Main Street improvements, OHM advisors. It's an improvement program, a proposal. If you're here for that, wait for that until I let you know. And the last thing is proposed services proposal of the Downs Program Management for Engineering Services on OHM. So those are the things that are on the agenda tonight. If you want to talk about those, I will give you that opportunity. A lot of municipalities, you only speak once at the beginning. I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak. Anything other than that, I'm going to ask everybody again, if you have that on your mind. I'm sure those aren't really thrilling topics, but if you want to talk about those, wait until we get to those. So with that, this would be the time to talk about anything else. And you have 3 minutes to talk about it. That's not a Q&A, and it's not jeering and cheering and booing. I'll ask you once, not to, do that in the crowd, but you have 3 minutes. Come up to the mic, sign in over there as you're getting ready. The next person, come sign in as somebody's speaking there. So at this point, not that I'm trying to see what's going on, if it's for downtown or if it's for the Downs, activities, this would be the time to come up. So come right up to the mic right now. Absolutely. And if you didn't sign in after you talk to, or if you're ready, whoever wants to go next, just get ready by that green sign over there and sign in. It's all yours.
Good
Full name and address. We would appreciate it.
Good evening, council. I'm Steve Pecan, 611 Ashley Court. I'm a 39-year resident of the city. And if I may, I'd like to pass out this to be passed around.
Absolutely. It's on your time. Yep. I'll do it.
And then if I may, I'd like to also pass this out. There's a number here that can be passed out for anybody who's interested. This is about the general issue of street conditions that I'm speaking to tonight.
Okay.
This handout that I've handed out, I put together a very small sampling of photos from streets that are in dire need of reconstruction. Included in that packet is a city map that's on the back side, and it shows street reconstructions from 2019 through the proposed 2024. Note that the reconstructions from 2019 through 2022 average about 5 per year, thereabouts. Some of you may also note that there are partial streets also there involved. What stands out by contrast is that 2023 has 1 street reconstructed. 2024 has only Orchard on the schedule as far as we are able to discern. I personally have photographed all city streets that need major repair, and I estimate that there's roughly 60 to 70% of the streets throughout the entire city that have certainly more than moderate to serious reconstruction needs. Most importantly, I understand that there does not exist a schedule for reconstruction. One of our citizens has requested that the city would provide such a list. Show us a schedule. When will this be done? And the city was unable upon his request. Take note in your photos, if you would, of what I passed out, that there's Eaton Street on the south end where it forks and goes off to 7 Mile. I would estimate that if we travel on that street for another 2 to 3 years, we'll be driving on a dirt road. It's that bad. It goes without saying that streets in such deteriorating conditions are dangerous to residents, drivers, and cyclists, pedestrians. One cyclist here I know is for certain. Actually, his wife had an accident and I believe injured her shoulder. There are other reports I've heard. I've spoken with many residents and attended a recent council coffee meeting where the street conditions were addressed. Council members, are you hearing the same complaints that I'm hearing? Because I hear them often. So I have a question that I'd like to pose to the council given this information. Why is there more than $40,000 projected to be paid to OHM Engineering for a study to create curbless streets in our downtown district? I'm sure if anybody here lives on any of these streets that I've shown you, you might have the same question. You likely do if you live in the city because most streets are.
Thank you very much. That's the 3 minutes. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I thank you, you put that Eaton Drive, that's right in front of my house. So that's probably one of the last streets that'll be
No,
done,
sir,
but.
it's on the
I
south,
know.
end. You live on the north.
So no to come the next person. This is not a Q&A, but we've spent,
Was an item that's on the agenda.
oh, and it's kind of on the agenda if it's streets, you know, so we're doing Orchard. We're spending $10.2 million in the last 2 years on streets, more than we've ever done. We'll have about $25 million on street reconstruction with different activities for waterworks. We are getting there. You are right. We rate all of our roads every year and we're getting there. Didn't just want to do that. You got me excited about Eaton Drive. I'd like to see that done too. My wife would. Thank you. Right now, if there's anything else that's not on the agenda, this would be your time to speak right up there. Sign your name and come right up. You can come right up. We'll catch up on that. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Snyder. I'm just here, I guess, to talk about on the consent agenda. There's one, the proposed contingency for River Park demolition. And then on the new business is another one for the proposed services proposal for the Downs proposal. I'm hoping that maybe you guys can bring up the dust control. I know I emailed city council today and just asking, just kind of a reminder in case somebody didn't see it. On the other one, this gentleman right here, I have the same question, so I'm going to ditto that on, why we're spending money for curbless streets, which I assume is going to be expensive and timely to install. It's such a critical time for our infrastructure over the next 3, 4, 5 years, and not to mention spending money that is sort of a preliminary deal when we have what I don't know what he said, 60 some streets that are in dire need of reconstruction.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Next. Come right up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bill Carter from Carpenter, 767 Carpenter Street.
Great.
No relation to John and
I understand.
What you guys are doing.
Duly noted.
Okay. I want to talk about opening the city to pedestrians, not to cars. Okay, and I appreciate what you folks have been trying to do. And the sign when you get to Northville says, "Welcome to Northville." And if we open this city to the pedestrians, not the cars, that's the epitome of what Northville stands for. I lived in Plymouth for over 30 years. I would come to Northville as a destination, not as a thoroughfare. I don't want to drive through. There's plenty of streets to go around Northville if you want to go somewhere else. So in my opinion, you guys are not doing the right thing. I want to read you something.
Sure.
It won't take long. This is a newsletter less than 2.5 months ago from John Hopkins. Cities should be made more walkable and pedestrian friendly, as you want to do. A city gets its personality from its people. Likewise, people are heavily influenced by where they call home. In the complexity of modern life, we often forget about this simple, symbiotic relationship. What we give to our city is what we get. In this light, making cities more walkable and pedestrian friendly gives back to the city that has already given us so much. That's all I want to do is support you folks and get the streets available to the pedestrians. I would do it all year round personally. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next. Anybody has a comment? This should be your time.
Hello, I'm Annette Mullet. I live on Villa Drive and I usually don't come to these, but I'm passionate about what's happening here.
Great to have you.
We have an international war protesting and so much happening out there. And yet we can't change any of that, but we can change our small space here. And what we need to do is, I'm here because this lawsuit that's happening is just awful. It's created divisiveness, not inclusiveness. If we want a quaint town with nostalgia, it's not about streets being open or closed, but it's adapting to a world where we can do what the gentleman before me said. That's step one. It's not about needing to create things we need creative volunteers to make that happen even more. Some people said it wasn't being used. I have so many ideas that could make this town so great. We could have happy to chat benches, which are prevalent in Canada and Europe. We could have scavenger hunts for different age group. We could have groups that show up so that they could use some of our beautiful restaurants so that we hit the loneliness epidemic. I mean, we're worried about money, money, money all the time. We need to start becoming a community and treat each other like family. We should have walking groups, sunrise yoga. That space could be used so easily and we have the volunteers to do it. You can have a random kindness day. You can have a talent showcase. I go to Holland a lot. They showcase their talent every single Thursday night so people can do singing, people can do gymnastics, people can do painting, and that connects people. That changes things from what we're living right now. So the side that is doing the lawsuit, I know I'm speaking to you, you have to defend yourself. I feel that the lawn group that is doing this, they must be very unhappy people if they feel that that is their priority in life and they don't even realize how miserable they're making so many others. They obviously have nothing to give and they're not willing to compromise. I believe the lawsuit needs to be dropped. And I feel that we should look at this as why would you sue your family? If we're going to be a family of Northville, can't we all sit down and try to work this out? And I'm not here just to voice an opinion. I am a holistic physician that worked for many years and know people well. And I will put in my time and whatever it takes to get two sides to get together and we will try to come together and work like you would in a family. This should be out of the courts and it's shameful, shameful, shameful that you guys have to defend yourself against a small group of people that have created a divisiveness and an ugliness here. So I'm basically here to say you don't know who I am, but I'm here to walk the walk. I'm here immediately to do whatever I can to make this community what we need on a microcosm level. I talk to people all the time, oh, the war. Fix it here. Show that we can get along. And we can if we sit here and we start caring about one another with a little bit of compromise. So I believe that it can happen. So let it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next. Anybody else that'd like to speak? This would be the time. Thank you. Right up there, full name and address.
Hello, Andy Whitmire, 530 West Main. I've spoken before, so I'll keep this real simple. Just here to support street closures for vehicles and street openness for all of us. In the summer, I think, great. That's fantastic. In the winter, shut them down. Not because that's my preference, because it's not, but because it seems reasonable. It's a compromise. It's what everybody came up with. Here for everybody. I understand there's some people that prefer that. Okay, cool, great. That's what we talked about. Awesome. I also want to show my support for all of you to be able to make decisions and have those decisions be upheld. And I show absolutely zero support for people who want to file a lawsuit to try to take that away. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Right up there. Full name and address would be great. Thank you.
Richard Graham, 790 Carpenter Street and with Move Northville forward. Couple comments. Actually, a resident messaged us right before the meeting. You know, they like to be here, but they have younger kids. So 7 o'clock, not a great time if they have younger kids, but they, you know, wanted to make sure I stated that I think there's a lot of young families that would like to be here at this time. Also want to recognize a gentleman that came up before. We picked downtown Northville over downtown Plymouth. And that gentleman talked about welcoming. Him and his wife sent us a card when we moved in. So I appreciate the welcoming and what we expect out of what we hope to expect out of the city of Northville. It was great to have street closures this past weekend, but so many were shocked to learn it was not for the entire summer. And a small fringe group has sued the city after a compromise was done. The harm being done to businesses, residents, and visitors coming to spend their money is shameful. One of the residents came up last meeting making false comments after my time to speak. Please don't be afraid of facts and public information available to all. It is why we live in America, for learning about facts and not just opinion. Sorry if you think facts and public information is bad for all to know. Last council meeting, I was not clear on some of the rules and procedures, so I think I'm clearer now. I understand that I can ask a council person a question, but they cannot answer it right after my comments. However, they are free to answer any questions during their comments at the end of the meeting. With that said, I will re-ask some of my questions. Councilwoman Giannetti, good evening. The Ville magazine characterizes you as a major critic of the street closures, while the compromise isn't good enough for you. Hometown Life, when you were running for council, quoted you as saying, keeping the streets open for regular traffic demands. However, it's being reported by many that a recent coffee hour, you seem to be backpedaling off of this point. Wasn't there? Just again, what's coming into the page. Questions. Are you a member of Let's Open Northville? They mentioned in a court filing after affidavit various people and businesses that will be named within that affidavit. Is your name one of the people within the affidavit, or is your business named? What is your position about road closures when you ran for office, and what is it today? Hopefully you will answer a resident and taxpayer. Please do not hide publicly from concerned residents at this type of meeting, which is recorded, videotaped, and documented for all to see.
Correct.
I would recommend, like I did last time, that the councilwoman be banned from any votes pertaining to this issue and possibly excluded from any and all legal discussions if her name or her business is involved within that lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Mike Williams, 247 West Street. The street closures. So here we are again. This weekend, I was surprised to find out that they were not closed for the agreement that was made or compromise that was made. So, you know, the other day, my son and I were watching Sebastian, and it was, I think the name of the show was Isn't Anybody Embarrassed Anymore? And honest to God, you guys, we should also be so embarrassed about the way this city is acting, the way it doesn't honor votes. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. I don't understand it. We got an attorney who's suing the city, who lives in the city, breaks bread in the city, lives in the city, and had his children in the city. Isn't that embarrassing? Isn't anybody embarrassed anymore? You know, I mean, the pink signs, oh my God, it's embarrassing. I mean, do we think the people coming through here see those signs and say, wow, that's cute? I bet you that's for a good cause. It's embarrassing. We should all stop. There was a compromise. We should live by that compromise, not by the few that crybabies that don't like it. All right. But now I'm not a big social media guy, but I went online here and I got a list of businesses that actually support the street closures that was agreed to, the compromise, and or are against the lawsuit against the city, which is embarrassing. So I'm going to go through the list of those names, okay?
You have a minute and 20
Yeah,
seconds.
okay. Garage, Toria, Brown Dog, Great White Buffalo, Center Street, Lucy and the Wolf, Table 5, Tuscan, 160 Main Street, the theater, Marquee Theater, Retail, Color of Woods, Town and Country Bikes, Stamp Peddler, KB Jewelers, Adorn, Sugarloaf, Northville Gallery, Simply Wine, Services, Hair Foundation, and Keith Brand. Now, this does not sound like a city divided. This does not sound like a majority not in favor. I mean, these businesses are standing up, and some of these, as I understand, are joining the lawsuit against the lawsuit, if there's such a thing, right? Aren't we embarrassed? Why can't we just sit down and agree that the compromise was a good compromise? Not everybody's going to be happy, but it's embarrassing. Oh my God, you guys, it's embarrassing. So I look to the council, Mayor, I look to you. This is the third time I've been up here and I haven't seen anything out of you to stop this. Get these people together. Stop the embarrassment. Let's do this. I mean, you guys, this list I went through was not a bunch of businesses who are not in favor.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next. Mr. Johnson, the Johnsons.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, my name is Tim Johnson. I live on 4723 Dunsany Road in Northville, Michigan. I wrote this down so I can make sure it's right. 4 years ago, Northville captured lightning in a bottle through an opportunity inspired by the pandemic. The year-round pedestrian zone has most definitely been embraced by our community. It has also opened our community to benefit from the business of our surrounding neighbors, making it a more bustling city than ever before. This is called progress. In our post-pandemic world, it is vital for community, its people, and businesses to thrive and grow as a destination place, competing with the online shopping and food delivery services. We fully support the consideration of long-term solutions to help make evolutions like the pedestrian zone fit into our community. 2 times at the encouragement of the business and community who have embraced it, the pedestrian zone was voted in by our elected city council through permanent year-round street closures for 1 block of both Main and Center Streets. Following these city council votes, a city election took place to retain one of those council members in her seat to thereby have her continue serving now as mayor pro tem. This speaks volumes for the mindset of the voting majority. Our next comment today are addressed at 4 people who are suing their own city: Richard Corriveau, Joseph Corriveau, Mary Keys, and Rebecca Good. Please note, only Rebecca's restaurant is located within the 2 city blocks of the pedestrian zone. Last week, in the final days before the agreed seasonal closure date of May 1st, you had a judge with very little background regarding both sides of this lawsuit temporarily suffocate the long-awaited reopening of Northville's pedestrian zone with claims that it couldn't be further from the truth. Since then, several more downtown businesses, 21 and counting actually, have identified themselves as being significantly more harmed by the injunction that is preventing the reopening of Northville's pedestrian district. They are currently suffering from loss of expected business, significant seasonal expenses incurred, and in the heartbreak of additional staff not being able to come to work as planned for the 6-month compromise season. Another reason for granting the injunction was stated the public interest would be harmed without an injunction. Are there 4 people behind the lawsuit aware of the petition that almost 3,000 signatures and counting say otherwise? And yes, some of these people are not Northville City residents, and we know that. However, it is absolutely ridiculous to think that our downtown business district could survive, let alone thrive, without welcoming our neighbors, visitors, including those from Northville Township residents with whom we have productively shared schools, emergency services, churches, doctors, dentists, the library, etc.
Thank you. If you have phones, if you could silence them too. I hear some dingings out there. Go right ahead.
Lori Johnson, to finish up. You assert that residential streets have turned into freeways. Well, what about the downtown street that our daughter lives on with her young family, and she has no concerns at all? It was very obvious to all of us that pass-through commuter traffic found other paths well outside of our downtown areas during the street closures. Your lawsuit claims ADA concerns, yet you support sporadic street closures when you see fit. What about the ADA concerns then? Are they conveniently just not existent during the occasional street closures? You appear to not have the ability to rest until you have it exactly your way. This is not a compromise, and it is not community-minded. Let us be very clear. We are not in favor of any further compromises. 6 months open, 6 months closed, both Main and Center Streets. There are several downtown businesses, plus literally thousands of caring residents and supporting visitors of all ages seeking to be the new generation for Northville's era of new growth. And we will continue to push for a post-pandemic pedestrian-friendly city. We also want to address you, Mr. Turnbull. While we respect your position and hold you in high regard, we believe in this, it is the responsibility of the city mayor to uphold decisions made by city council. You have only 1 vote, yet you are expected to adhere to and support decisions that are made by council. Our local businesses and greater community looks to you to share their city council's collective voice with clear direction. We believe you have failed regarding this particular situation. In the past 3 years, when 2 city council actions voted in favor of Northville's year-round pedestrian district and 1 additional vote was made for seasonal closures, you repeatedly made comments to undermine their diligent efforts with business owners and out in the greater community. You have been heard making comments like, it's permanent until it isn't. Since that very next day, right after the first vote. When the 3rd and final vote was made on this matter, there was a 5-0 unanimous vote to maintain seasonal street closures for both Main and Center Streets for a full 6 months. This included your supporting vote.
Yet mixed messages have continued to come from you for the past several years, causing the kind of chaos that we find ourselves in now, or I should say partially causing. Most recently, we hear you regularly say the bollards give us flexibility to open and close the streets whenever we want. That is not conducive for good business planning, safe, aesthetically pleasing outdoor furnishings, online map updates, appropriate traffic signage, etc. After having 2 permanent year-round street closure votes amended, our community and critical businesses are now depending on you to uphold the seasonal pedestrian 6th district vote of 6 months open, 6 months closed on both streets. Let's end the discussion, beat the lawsuit, and start working together on valuable permanent improvements to make this unique opportunity the best it can be for all of us.
Next. Evening.
Therese Grassi, 512 West Dunlap Street. My husband and I live in downtown Northville and just wanted to add our voices to the list of residents that enjoy having the downtown streets closed in the warm weather months. We support the seasonal closures. There are those who say we're in the minority. I'm not sure that's true. There are those who say that only people who don't live in Northville, and certainly not downtown residents, that would prefer the streets closed. We live in downtown Northville, so we know that that's not true. There are those who say it's only the people who don't have more traffic on their streets that prefer the streets closed. Living on Dunlap, we seem to have more traffic, so that's not true. As for the parking and accessibility issue, we all know that there are relatively few spots available on those 2 downtown streets. We are very disappointed that the Let's Open Northville group didn't see the seasonal closure as a good compromise. From what I have seen them say, the compromise isn't good enough unless it's just the compromise that they want. We are disappointed that the Let's Open Northville group chose to sue us. We saw a post earlier on their lawsuit would not cost the taxpayers. Unless something has changed in their original filing, in fact, they asked for court costs and attorney's fees as part of the remedy. Who's going to pay for that? We are. We are also very disappointed that the Let's Open Northville group went forward to get an injunction while downtown businesses spent money planning on seasonal closures. If you want to hurt a downtown business, that was one way to do it. Respectfully, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and there are many around town. We support seasonal street closures and the city's efforts to have the injunction overturned. For the sake of local businesses, we hope the city prevails as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Nancy.
Nancy Curie, 661 West Main. I thought this weekend was a perfect example of street closures. It was for the weekend. There was an event. The town was engaged. But once that entertainment went away, it was kind of dead down there. And I think having the streets closed on the weekend makes perfect sense. But let everybody enjoy it. And the compromise should be open them up during the week. I think there's a better compromise here, one that you can make with the citizenry. But that really wasn't why I came to talk. Oftentimes at city council, there's a lot of things that are said during citizen comments and you say you're going to get back to us, but I don't hear that. So I have a list of things I was hoping that maybe you would put on the next agenda. I'm still waiting on the discussion and the vote regarding Zoom comments. You said you were going to come up with a policy. We've heard nothing on that. The public review and explanation by the city administration on the relocation of the parking spaces that were to be provided within 600 feet of the downtown as a result of the sale of the city parking lot. Parking is getting tight down here. Why the wording of the consent agenda has been changed. It used to say citizens could ask to pull something forward on the agenda. That was removed, and I hope that was just an oversight. And then also, at the risk of spreading rumors, because it's going around town, I'd like to know if there's been discussions, formal or informal, regarding the possibility of moving the library outside the city. I would hope that wouldn't happen. The city is crucial to our downtown. The city, the library is just a fantastic asset, and I would hate to see it leave. And then lastly, didn't the option to purchase expire today for the Downs parking lot? And if it did, I think it's time to say goodbye. That parking lot has created more legal havoc for this town than I've seen in the 30 years I've lived here. And maybe it's time to say, we're going to pull our option. Thank you.
Thanks. Next.
Hi, my name's Becky Hoffman and I live on Upland Court. I'd like to share how much our family enjoys having the downtown streets closed to vehicles and open to pedestrians. My first son was born in May of 2021. So as you can imagine, going to a restaurant was not something we were interested in doing with an infant during COVID. Or really for the sake of guests, going to a restaurant at all.
Understand.
So downtown Northville quickly became our sanctuary. And then it became our family tradition. And ultimately now it is a cornerstone of our quality time together. We look forward to coming downtown every Friday night. We've met new friends, we've enjoyed our family time, and we've supported local businesses. Last summer, my son loved to visit what he called the little houses and to always get ice cream. Has to be from Rebecca's, sorry, brown dog, but it has to have the train as part of the experience. And mom and dad love to get wine from Simply Wine or a beer from Great White Buffalo and dinner from our rotating roster of Little Salumi or Brown Dog or 160 Main or Center Street Grill. I would say that on average, every Friday night that we come downtown, we're spending at least $100 on these local businesses, and we're proud and happy to do it. So we've really appreciated the placemaking and community building that the streets being closed has given us, and we hope that that will continue. And I'd love to hear from all of the council members when you're able about how we can support this in the courts as well. Happy to file an amicus brief or whatever it takes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next.
Hello, council. My name is Bobby Johnson. I'm at 47266 Dunsany, and I'm also the owner of Colors of the Wood, a small business in downtown Northville. I've spoke many times about the streets, and we still very fully support the full closures of both Main and Center Street. But that's not directly what I'm here to talk about today because we've talked about this so many times. Today, I want to talk about democracy. We're lucky to live in a country and a city where the residents' responsibility is to vote for elected officials. And those elected officials, their responsibility is to implement policies, procedures, plans for the city that best represent the entire city as a whole. And we believe that City Council has been doing that. We believe that our residents have been doing that. Two examples I'd like to point to from the fall would be the election of a new city council member. Fair democratic election, we have a new city council member. Another example of that is when the city council agreed to reconsider the full street closures through years of research, community engagement, meetings, both large and small, traffic studies, pedestrian studies, plans about urban planning, everything. The city made the decision in a 5-0 vote to go with seasonal closures. Unfortunately, for the Let's Open Northville group, that fair and reasonable compromise was not exactly what they wanted. And because it wasn't exactly what they wanted, they made the decision to sue our city so they could get what they want. And to me, not just a business owner, not just a resident, but just as an American, that should be alarming to everyone. We believe that our city should have the power to make decisions for our city, and that should not be in the courts. So I would implore anyone who's in Northville, whether you like the streets or not, I think that you really need to stand up for our city and our city's ability to support itself. So we continue to give our support to the city. And any residents, please reach out to us. We want to help in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks.
Next.
Hi, my name is Colleen Kelly, and I'm a resident at 1086 Washington Circle. I'm also a co-founder of a group called Gather Northville. Gather Northville was created because we had a couple events with our friends, but we saw there were more and more people that wanted to join in on these events. And what we realized was that, and maybe it's speaking for ourselves, is that post-COVID, People want connections. People want community. And when you look at the divisiveness in our country over the past at least 10 years, Northville started to create a space where people of all walks of life came together. And it is so unique, not only for that connectedness that people are seeking and desiring so much. I mean, they're still coming up to us like, when's the next event? When's the next event? And it's more than we can even handle right now because people are hungry for social connection. There is research that shows that social connectedness in communities raises the health of community members. This is important. It is not something to brush aside as, oh, people just want to go out and drink in the streets. That's not what it's about. If you go downtown on a sunny Tuesday, and you know, in Michigan, we can't really plan when those sunny days are going to happen. So I can't say it can just be on the weekend. When you go there and you see all of these people coming together, there is nothing else like that around here. And it's something to be treasured and it's something to be fought for. I understand, as we've all talked, that compromise is necessary. And so we did the 6 months on, 6 months off. I love European winter gardens. I prefer having the streets open to pedestrians in the winter. But you know what? My opinion isn't the only one that matters. I support the compromise. And to the businesses that say that the thousands of people walking past your store every day is not helping your business, I would challenge you to think about ways to bring people into your stores. Host giveaways. Give away candy or water, whatever it takes. Get those people into your store. You have free sales leads walking past your store every day. And so if that pedestrian zone is not helping your business, I would challenge you to think about what can you be doing differently to really capitalize on all of that free traffic. And I'll also add, I'm a digital marketer. People pay me to get traffic to their businesses. You don't have to pay anyone to do that here. They're all right there waiting for you to connect with them. And it'd be an absolute shame to change this into something that's only special events or only on the weekends. Because again, it's Michigan. We can't plan on the sun. When it happens, everyone comes to Northville and everyone is coming together here in Northville because of the pedestrian zone.
Thank you. Next, anybody else going once? Go right ahead. Sir. Thank you very much.
My name is Dan Huffman. I live at 619 West Main. And I have a tree in my backyard. My neighbors have cut limbs off on their own. They've hired people to come in. It's very, very dangerous. If it comes down, it's going to knock a house out. It's going to knock the neighbor's garage down. It's going to knock down the police chief's garage and everything. So I got all set up to cut the tree. And this is the second permit I've tried to get. And lo and behold, I'm a senior. And I was told that I had to pay $4,500 for my tree. Now, I don't know what science fiction movie they've been watching, but that's not going to happen. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, but in Plymouth, they went to 3 courts there was a business area that they cut down trees and put a parking lot on. And it got thrown out of court 3 times. Now you can't do that in Plymouth anymore. You can't do this scam. Now, this tree has to come down. When that tree comes down on somebody else's property, the people's house that it hits, their insurance has to pay for it. And that's going to not make very good neighbors, to say the least. And then I have to say this. We had an apartment complex across the street from us on the corner there. It was ugly. It had 2 apartments in it. It was a mess. So the people decided to sell it. They sold the house. And then this great family bought it. I mean, just good people, got a couple of kids, daughters, they're going to the school down there. They had to pay a bond. So here they come in and they improve the value of the whole corner. They improve the value of the property. You're going to get more taxes. You're going to get a ton of taxes out of this house, 1.5 million at least, the house. And then they charged the guy to put a bond to cover the trees the guy took out, to put the nice house up and improve the neighborhood. So that sounds a little precarious to me. Now I move that we stop this where you're charging people. You know, I bought the property. It's my tree and I'm not paying to cut it down. So if you see a police car picking me up, you know what happened. Now, the other thing that's very important right now is the police and law enforcement is grossly underpaid. The other thing is they need to start looking at what's going on around the country, and they need to start getting a system ready in case we do have problems. I've been around the world about 80 times. I tell you, people here are pretty much ignorant of what's going to happen. So we need to get prepared, and we need to get our police prepared. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Tree ordinances on planning commission.
I understand. Yep. And we're looking at tree ordinances tomorrow at the planning commission, so I understand. I feel the love. Go.
Good evening, Lenore Lewandowski, 119 Randolph Street. So there are a lot of factors when we consider in regards to the opening or closing of the city streets on both sides. Personally, from my perspective, I live on Randolph Street near Center, and the closed streets were an advantage to me because I no longer had backed up traffic in front of my driveway as people were trying to make their turn onto Center. However, I also knew that that traffic was going someplace else because I myself was going down Wing Street all the time. Both sides of the issue. Secondly, the bollards, I love them. I think they were a worthwhile expenditure because it makes it easy for city workers to quickly open or close streets as needed for city events, construction, or emergencies. But while we don't want to compromise the safety of the people in the downtown area, using the bollards also comes as a cost, and we need to recognize that. For example, if we want to open the streets on a Sunday evening after an event, workers are most likely having to be paid extra for Sunday work. So again, both sides of the issue there. Okay. Lastly, I think I was thinking about this, and I considered how people are using the downtown, both during when the roads were closed and when they've been open. So do we have enough activities and businesses to draw the public? Will these activities sustain people continuing to visit our downtown, or will people eventually lose interest because like, oh, there's another concert, I can go another week? Are people patronizing all of the businesses in the downtown, not just some of them? Maybe let's think about what businesses are benefiting. Are the hours of engagement conducive to public needs and wants? Okay. So while there may be more pros and cons about the street closures, what saddened me most is that some of the public has made the situation very personal. I've seen yelling, I've seen finger pointing, calling out of council members, naming businesses. This has happened on both sides. And that really, really saddens me that people can't look at the big picture, can't think about what may the other side be thinking of. When individuals engage in negative behavior, negotiation and compromise stops. Okay. I've heard from others that this is not what we are as a city. And I truly believe that. I believe that individuals, particularly stakeholders, need to come to the table with an open mind and be willing to look at all sides of the issue. We can craft a solution which may not satisfy all desires on either side, but which would be acceptable and beneficial to many. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenore. Next.
Seems to me we're beating a dead horse. And you know what? I think it's time. I think we needed to do this. I think you needed to hear from those people that were at home, that were happy with how things were. Why would they want to come here if they're satisfied and they're happy with the way things are? The streets were fun and exciting. And then all of a sudden, a small group of loud voices decide to sue their own city, which I found appalling. I know we've heard that from many, many people this evening, but it's appalling that you would sue your own city. There is a compromise made. You voted 5-0 to compromise with these people. And for some reason, it isn't good enough. And I think that this group up here has a role, a job, and that is to stand together. And I believe in what you've done. I believe in what is happening in our city. And I want you to know that I support this.
Thank you.
Rob. Anybody else?
Hello, Andy Genetti, 512 Eaton. My words are my own and I do not speak on behalf of anyone else. I feel this is important to say because after weeks of Facebook warriors and internet McVidiots typing and talking up a storm with my name in their misinformed mouths, let me tell you a few things I believe about the legal proceedings concerning the street closures. This case is not a result of anything any Genetti has done. The last circus with council meeting, some booze-addled housewife called my sister a rich bitch and went on to spew that Laura poured money into the effort, which is not true. Now, I will not stand for Laura being called rich. I know she gives her money. I know she gives her money to 3 universities. I know she keeps the lights on for as many as 30 employees to keep working, picks up the occasional family dinner check, but still finds the need to charge me for Parmesan cheese.
Yep.
Anyway, the supermom's outburst led to the avalanche of hate pointed towards us about our opinion about the street situation. This case is brought on by the leadership. The street closing issue should not even be responsibility of the council to advance. I don't believe it's their job to change the city. I think they should investigate, vote, keep the lights and water on. These projects should be brought by the Merchants Association, and council should be voting on the process and the final results. Designing, lobbying, and showboating is not the job of the council and or the city manager. They had no plan. They lost in court because of their stubbornness. They didn't listen to any other entity. They didn't listen to the mobility study. They didn't listen to the superintendent of schools. They didn't listen to Google when we literally got wiped off the map. They didn't do traffic studies or seemingly even drive around the city. And for those that think the lawsuit is an insurrection, this is not the case. Just because someone has their ISO 9000 safety badge doesn't mean you are fit to redesign a city and plop down road signs without following handicap accessibility or traffic studies. A couple of weeks a month, awesome. Weekends, few festivals, great. We bought the cheapest bollards installed by the lowest bidder for a reason. Let's use them to make us flexible. There is no reason the streets should be closed Monday through Thursday. It's ridiculous. There are countless weekends when no one is in town. Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, closed. Everybody's at Turnbulls. Have you ever been downtown after 10 o'clock on a weekend? I know you don't know because no one is there to see it. Everyone's up north or Ann Arbor or Lansing or on their beautiful patios. Completely closing the streets is lazy. Plan some parties, get some bands. That's where the time and money should be spent. Last summer, the streets were closed. We had no big concerts, no big bands. We had roadside performers. Then I read from the entire staff of the board store, they're taking shots at our business to make themselves look benevolent. They are open 20 hours a week, literally. We have 6 employees that do that in a day and a half. Most of these places lock up on Saturday evening and are cutting the cheese for the rest of the weekend.
Thank you, Andy.
They aren't seen again till 11.
Appreciate it, my friend.
We have hundreds of people walking across empty streets.
Bless you.
Just
Thank
saying.
you. Next.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Herman Reyes Villanueva. I'm know this a big mouth. I live in 532 Langfield Street. And I wasn't planned to speak up, but on a side note, I just want to tell you a little bit of story. We came to Michigan, to Northville 20 years ago. And actually, as a professor, the first thing that you do is just look for data. So we went online and looked for demographic data, level of education, level of crime, economic input of the people. And basically, we found Northville to be the best town to raise a family. So we moved to Northville. And our kids went to elementary school, middle school, high school. So this is home. When somebody asks me, where you are from? Well, I'm from Northville, but I was born somewhere else. So in 20 years, I'm sure that many of you have seen me and my wife walking downtown, holding hands all the time. So when the streets were closed to cars and open to pedestrians, it was a rejoice because you can experience and live downtown. So I'm here just to say that I support the streets to be closed to cars and open to pedestrians, and I support the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, is there anybody else? Going once, right there. Oh, yeah, help her with the mic.
So I'm Nazneen Mahmood. I'm from 17379 Park Shore. Several of you know me here already. Good to see you again. I think Tim Hassey has probably sent you an invitation to the event that we're planning on May 19th. I'm here to make the invitation in person and to thank you all for enabling the event. So thank you, Mayor Turnbull, for realizing the need to call for peace, and the desire only increases now in our country. Thank you for the proclamation for ceasefire. Thank you and Barbara for attending Iftar with us. We enjoyed sharing our traditions immensely and hope that you have some additional insight on the desire for peace and equity for all people we have in our hearts. Thank you for helping enable Peace Day again, Sunday, May 19th. We need opportunities like this for dialogue and reflection right now. Our young people, as often happens in the hearts of young people who are, less jaded than us older folks, are embracing their conscience and speaking up right now, calling out their universities for participation in the repression of the Palestinian people. I have to say my good word about them, since I have a little bit of a public platform here. Whenever I can, as I've been to the encampment, they may create distraction, but they are extremely peaceful and patient, and they are humanitarians and patriots. So we are grateful for Peace Day, very grateful. We are not young and we cannot do tents. Okay, so this Peace Day is our way to bring dialogue and change of mind. Several of us organizers and concerned community members are here to encourage you to please attend Peace Day and read out the proclamation for ceasefire that represents Northville residents so well. You are a great storyteller, and I'm telling you as truth from one proud storyteller to another. Your presence would be highly appreciated to tell the story of Northville's call for peace at home and abroad.
Thank you.
And can I give you any flyers or?
You can on your way out. Yep. You can go down the line. Anybody else that would like to speak at this point? Come right up. Good to see you. Jump right on. Thank you.
Dave Beeger, I'm on Grasmere in Northville Estates. I've lived here for 35 years. I can count on one hand how many times I've parked on Center or Main Street. I did park across for Rebecca's a few months ago, and I was afraid to get out of my car. Cars are going way too fast down Center Street. And then to try to get a stroller out or help with the grandkids, it's scary. So even if the streets are closed, I think you should think about lowering the speed limit on those streets. I don't even know if you can do 25 on Main Street, especially around the clock, but somebody should be watching that. So, and then to walk down the streets with strollers and stuff when those cars are zipping by is scary. You know, the grandkids got used to it last summer, the last couple summers walking around, and they think, they can walk out in the traffic. They can't. So you've got to teach them not to do that. A few people pointed out that some people take this way too personal, and they've gone online. When my daughter spoke over a year ago online on a video, she was personally attacked, and they were like, we'll go after her business and, calling out her name and where she lives. It was just vindictive, and it was upsetting. And I've told Mr. Turnbull that it was disgusting to watch that. So everybody's entitled to their opinion, right, wrong, compromise, no compromise. Let's be nice about this, because that's just wrong and should not be allowed. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks. Anybody else at this point? One more. Mr. Hassey.
Hi, Tim Hassey, 966 Springfield Court. I guess I just wanted to add to Nazneen and our Peace Day that we've put a lot of effort in planning and just wanted to advertise, I guess, to the whole room quickly. I mean, at 2 p.m., we've got Ford Field rented out until 3:30. So that's kind of more the social event. I'll be bringing my 3-month-old and we'll be flying kites, making posters and signs and drawing henna tattoos art. My wife came up with the idea, make tie-dye shirts today, so we'll try to pull off that too and see what else we can bring. I was thinking just a Frisbee or bring whatever, bring your family, socialize in the park. Then we'll head over to the community center at 4 p.m. and I guess that'll be, we'll have some speakers. We've got Reverend, Pastor, we've got I believe a rabbi. We're trying to finalize that. And our last speaker will be Northville's own Tarek. He's a community organizer. And so then we'll have some question and answer. So I guess just trying to get the community together to have some tough conversations about some controversial issues, but approach it with kindness and open mind and tolerance and let's learn how to get along and hopefully put on a good event for the city and hopefully see a lot of you there. I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tim. Anybody else tonight before we go to the agenda? Going once, going twice. I'm closing off public comment. There'll be those different areas for opportunity when we go to different sections. So if you're following it out there, we are now, and note too on 4A, every bit of written communication that came in, we've all read. I expect everybody to read their package before. This is for tonight. So we have read everything in there. Any comment or anything for the agenda
In
tonight?
the public comment, because unfortunately right now we can't do comments on Zoom because of some two incidents we had. The public comments that you write, if you get them to us by 4 p.m., we did get them.
At 4 p.m.
Later in the
today.
day, yeah, but we get them and they bundle them together, so we're still able to read them.
So no, we read, I expect everybody on this council to read their whole package before they get into their seat.
And they become part of the public record as well.
Yep, and they're posted on the agenda, so you can go online. Anybody that posted today at up to 4 o'clock and beyond, it's out there online. So that's the new system. Good. So with that, I'm going to section 5, consideration and approval of the consent agenda. I'd like the city manager to walk through what's on the consent agenda, and then when he's done, if there's anything that needs to be put on the agenda, that would be the time. So, George.
Thank you, Mayor. We have the following items on the consent agenda for council consideration. Item A, City Council Minutes, Special Budget Review Session Meeting of April 11, 2024, Regular Meeting of April 15, 2024, Special Meeting of April 24, 2024, Closed Session Meeting of April 24, 2024. B, receive bills list week of May 1st, 2024. Now, board and commission appointments. Is there a name we're adding?
There is.
Yes.
Yes, it's we are adding the appointment of Mario Tartaglia to the Historic District Commission, and that can be under the consent agenda.
5C.
Where would it go? 5?
Correct, 5C.
5C.
That's it. Thank you. Item D, proposed agreement with Wayne County fiscal year 23-24 Parks Millage Allocation. E, proposed amendments to the 2023-2024 budget through March 31st, 2024 and quarterly investment report. Item F, proposed contingency for River Park demolition contract. Item G, proposed equipment purchase bucket truck. Item H, proposed equipment purchase, self-contained breathing apparatus, bottles, masks, and equipment. Item I, proposed equipment purchase, network server replacement. Item J, request for special joint meeting with Northville Township on May 14th, 2024. Item K, request for valet parking, AMITY Coworking, May 8, 2025. Item L was moved to the business agenda. Item M, special event request, Orin Rocks Block Party. Those are all the items on the consent agenda for council's consideration.
Great. So you've heard everything that's on the consent agenda. Council members, is there anything you'd like to move from the consent to the agenda? This would be the time.
I do just have one.
Okay.
Just the proposed contingency to the Riverwalk demolition contract. If we can move that.
Great. Would that be F or G? We already moved one to F, so that would be G. Yep, but we got it.
Okay.
So that would be 9G. Great. Is there anything else we'd like to leave to the agenda? Great. With that, I am looking for a motion to go forward with the new agenda with those one new addition.
This will make a motion to move F from the consent agenda to new business.
Great.
So
That's already done by moving it. Now you would just make a motion to approve the consent
so-
agenda with those two items that we said.
so I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Great.
Perfect.
So we have that. Do we have support? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We changed kind of the order of things tonight. After many years, you think you know how to do it. So very good. So excellent. So now we do have an agenda. So we will go on to section 6, presentations. We have no presentations tonight. Phew. Number 7, public hearings. We have no official public hearings tonight. Number 8, unfinished business. We finished all our business, believe it or not, last time. We will go to section 9, new business. And the first thing is 9A, the ordinance amendment, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6. And who is going to do that? Lori and Mike? Mike, it's Mike, our city clerk. It's all yours. Mike Smith. Let it rip. I think your mic is live.
Yes. All right. During the last few months, Mayor and Council, administration has been working together to rewrite the amusements and entertainments ordinance. We have drafted substantive changes to the amendment and feel it would be best to repeal the current ordinance that is out there and replace it with a new formatted version to better coincide with modern practices. We have provided the original version as attachment A in the packet as the current version that's out there under the code. And the proposed draft ordinance was attachment B in the packet as the proposed version. The police chief and DDA director provided me with feedback on the language to be included in the amendments, and the city attorney has reviewed the proposed ordinance amendment and found it to be acceptable. The one changes noted after, of course, discussion, if you move forward, is to have the second reading and adopted be scheduled for a later date to give us more time to June 3rd, I believe, is the meeting, so we have more time. But this would be just for first reading, introduction. Any questions can come up with that time. I believe Lori and Chief can have any other input.
Great. So that is for us, for those in the audience, for those online. I first asked if there's any questions from council members on Micah on this. If after that, I will open up. If you have a comment, you can comment on this. It's not unbelievably exciting.
Just a clarification. We have to delay the approval, the second reading is that because of a notice period?
No, we were hitting the 14 days. It's just, I believe, the chief and DDA director stated that they would like more time.
Oh, just to
review
look it over.
Look it over. If any
Okay.
questions come up, just give us more leeway in that
Yeah,
time.
I read the old one and the new one, and it seems, fine. I don't know what kind of noise measurement device you're going to have, but beyond that, that's a technical item. But I would say I cannot help but looking at the old ones. So it was footloose. So improper dancing or roller skating was called out. And as disorderly, so disorderly conduct, obscene acts, language is prohibited. Now that is for dancing or roller skating. I mean, really. And then I said, when was this put in? And it was 1980. I'm like, I thought it was like 1940 or something.
You can see why we're
Anyway,
revising this.
Anyway, so I'm
Duly noted.
grateful for the update to the ordinance. That's
Yep.
all I'm going to say.
Great. Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate it.
I would like to be public that while I support the new one, I do think smoking a cigar while roller skating is something we need to monitor, which was explicitly banned in the original ordinance.
Yeah.
We'll send Alan Masak over to your house when you're doing that.
Stuff up.
Good.
Stay on that.
Good. Other logical questions for our clerk on this time? Any clarifying?
To answer your question about the decibel, I believe the chief is going to order a decibel meter to read that
Okay.
as part of that as well.
So we don't have to guess. We'll have the meter. And we have that around. Any other questions for the clerk at this time? Going once?
Nope.
Going twice?
Straightforward.
Any questions from the audience on this item? Going once, going twice? Great. I'm looking for a motion to go forward. Do we need a motion at this time? Is this the first reading for you
Yes.
today? Okay, so we do need a motion.
Motion to approve the introduction and first reading of the proposed replacement ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Amusements and Entertainments, Article 4, Dance Entertainment Premises as presented, with a second reading and adoption to be scheduled for May 20th, 2020.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. June 3rd.
I accept that friendly amendment.
Okay, excellent. So we have a motion. I'm looking
Support.
for support of that motion. We have support. Any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I think we can do this too. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, you have a motion. Go forward with that. Section B here, proposed equipment purchase electronic mobile parking enforcement system. I know that's why everybody's here.
Hey,
Chief
it's
Masak,
exciting.
I know it is. You have about 30 people online that wants to hear about this. Tell us about the parking and enforcement. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. I know we've been talking about this for quite some time.
We have.
Regarding a parking enforcement option for us. And obviously a little back history. So the time spaces here in the city, to kind of put in perspective, these are approximate numbers. We have approximately 900 spaces in the downtown area, parking spaces. And of that, approximately 496 are time parking spaces. So they range anywhere from 3 hours to 15 minutes. I mean, they're all in between. And it's important because our business owners would like to see the changeover in parking so people can come downtown and shop and frequent our restaurants as well. After a certain time frame, depending on which lot you're in, and those go away in the evening hours. But it's important for us to have some sort of enforcement arm to enforce those time parking spaces. A couple of years ago, a recent court of appeals ruling came down where we as police are no longer allowed to chalk tires for time parking. So physically placing chalk on a tire is considered a search through the federal appeals court. And so we cannot do that anymore. So that was our main option for conducting time parking. So other than that, we could sit and watch a car for 3 hours, which is not good use of time. No, we're not going to do that. So now we're looking for the electronic option. There are a wide variety of options out there. Myself and Wendy Longpree, the strategic, sorry, her title escapes me right now.
It's long.
Development, it's very long.
Special project.
Special project, yeah.
projects.
So we went through and did a lot of demonstrations on a lot of different products, and they range anywhere from, in a lot of them you can use in very big municipalities. But we're looking for one that fits Northville. And so what we're looking for is an option that a parking enforcement officer or a police officer can go out and electronically document a vehicle in a spot, mark that date and time, and come back 3 hours later, whatever the time frame is, to conduct enforcement with that if they're out past the time, and then write a citation. So of these different companies that we looked at, we found that Flash Ballpark was the best fit for City of Northville. We are not a big municipality like Detroit or Chicago that has a lot of parking and has actually parking enforcement officers that go out. We're looking something that is that we can use that's cost effective, but still be able to do the job. So what this entails, what Flash offers, is basically an app on a cell phone. So basically the equipment is we get our department cell phones through Verizon. We would just order 3 more cell phones. It would be those phones would be basically the parking enforcement phones. There's a Bluetooth printer that basically is on a shoulder strap, and the person can go out, electronically mark each vehicle and the time spots, and it will alert them 3 hours later, or whatever that time spot is at the time that they expired. If they go back to vehicles there, it prints a ticket off and you put it on the windshield. Easy as that.
Great.
Very easy. It's a great option. So let's talk enforcement. So obviously we have, the officers can use it. If we have cadets, they can use it as well. Our downtown obviously is very walkable. They can go through and walk the downtown several times enforcing during those timed hours. As part of this program, there's a back office software, which means that when the ticket is inputted, it automatically gets uploaded to the cloud. And then here, whether it be in the clerk's office or the police department, we can track all the tickets. If they're paid, they can be paid online by the person receiving the citation. It can be contested online as well. There is that portal as well. They can pay by credit card. We can also accept cash here at the window. So there's a lot of different options. There is a service fee if the person pays online, a credit card service fee that is assessed to the violator, not the city. So that is part of that process. So let's look at if this is approved tonight and we move forward, the next thing would be approval through the city attorney and our insurance carrier of the contract. If that's approved, we move forward. They develop the app for us. It's already developed, but they kind of basically manufacture it for Northville. Our streets, our parking lots, our different time and our violations, and also fine or fee schedule. That all gets inputted. And then we start rolling it out in a test phase. So basically what I do is I have our midnight officers use it during the 3 to 5 overnight parking to see how they like it, get used to it, and before we get out and do the time parking. I know this isn't in the agenda, but just moving forward with once we start doing time parking, the first thing we want to do is we've talked about this quite a bit. We want to educate everybody downtown, let them understand that enforcement is going to be coming. We show them where to park, how many spots are available. A lot of municipalities find that the biggest violators of their time parking are downtown employees. So we want to make sure that we visit all the businesses and let them know, hey, on this date and time, we are going to start time parking. We want to make sure, number one, you don't get a ticket. And number two, this is when you can park. A lot of the things that we've talked about as well is that basically on a calendar year reset. So if somebody gets a violation, their first ticket is free. It's basically a warning. And say it's just a one-time thing. They're down here. They don't realize we have a timed or something. That first ticket will be free. And then any ones above and beyond that, because they'll register the same plane. That'll be. So I think we have kind of a good plan in place moving forward that not only will help us, but actually help the businesses and our employees and visitors as well.
And no, this came percolating from our businesses.
Yes.
We have 900 spots downtown. We have 400 kind of times. We're not paying for parking. This is the violators going on the 3 hours after that. We have 2,200 spots. None of them are very good in town, but we have all those spots. We're talking about 400 or 500, time spots downtown. I think it's a great opportunity that we're listening to the businesses, that we want people to come in and out of downtown, not somebody to park there all day. We're not charging for parking. This is if they're there all day. So know that we have.
And so just to put it on the record, so this is very cheap. And there were some that were in the, $25,000. They're very expensive. So this is just a one-time charge of $1,503. And this includes basically the setup fee and the 3 Bluetooth printers and cases. The cell phones we'll be getting on our plan. And then the monthly subscription is $200 per device. So $600 a month reoccurring after that. And then I talked about the transaction fee, and that's $4 per ticket fee that's passed on to the consumer violator when they pay. If they pay by credit card, they can come in and pay cash here at the window as well.
On their second ticket, because the first one's free.
Right. And they're not assessed that fee.
Good.
They do that. So
great. Questions for the chief?
I have a couple.
Yes.
Let her
Okay,
rip.
so is it a structure? Like what, are you putting like a meter up?
No,
It's a camera.
no,
Mm-mm.
there's nothing.
Just their phone.
So basically what it is we don't have paid parking downtown, obviously. We don't have meters. So what this is basically is with the time parking, if somebody's parked in a 3-hour spot, the officer or parking enforcement person, for lack of better terms, would basically take a picture of the vehicle or enter the plate, and it's actually GPSed of where that car is. And once you enter that in, and then you put 3-hour spot, it'll know exactly where that car is. So when you come back 3 hours later, it'll alert you that car is over time. It hasn't.
Okay, and then it's 3 hours. That's what it's gonna be
No, because there's different spots.
Whatever the different spots are. Some
Whatever
could be
the
free, some could be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
So
Whatever
right now, we really
posted
don't
today.
we don't have an arm to enforce that.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Nothing will change from what the parking lot you see today. If it says 3 hour.
Nothing's gonna change.
2 hour parking.
This just
Yeah.
goes up.
Free.
Yeah.
Got it.
Free in town. Yep. Good. Other questions from council members?
Only thing I was gonna highlight is I think education is gonna be really important. I'll pleasantly refer to it as the limited enforcement model that's currently in place. Not calling anyone out, but some people have gotten pretty used to that. And you're gonna catch some people off guard. So we just need to make sure we're letting people know, we're educating, we've got proper signage. And then I know, Lori, from a DDA standpoint, recognizing that it is a lot of the businesses in town that we're working with them, not just to say, hey, you're going to get tickets if you park in these spots, but here are the different options that you have in the area.
Right.
And also validating that there's enough spots in those areas, because I think it's a really important message to get out that this isn't meant to be a revenue generator for the city.
Nope.
This is purely to help the businesses, to create turnover and actually help with some of the parking challenges by basically prioritizing those spots. So,
Yeah, that's
but
100% correct.
yeah, but overall, I mean, it seems like a cost-effective way to achieve that ask. So appreciate the work in that.
Thank you.
So I want to,
Barbara.
this has been a long time coming. I know
Yes.
the parking committee, the DDA, you met with Plymouth, how do they manage it? So there was a lot of work that went into this. And then what system to get once you made a decision.
Sure.
So I really appreciate it and my patience paid off. It's
you.
really
Thanks.
working well. And really to emphasize what John said, this is not about trying to make money from parking. And so I appreciate that this is a less expensive system than other and really seems pretty
It's
reasonable.
very reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, you would not believe some of the prices of some of the products.
Right. Now, so the other side, so again, the education is great. And also basically you have a get out of jail free, for one. Are they charged a transaction fee or are they just given a notice?
Just a warning.
Okay, they can
saying, you know,
just,
this
okay.
First one is a warning.
Good.
Yep.
That's what I was hoping. So, so on that and what the other part of this is, I know, we don't have a whole lot of officers, right?
Right,
So
right.
how, who would be the staff doing this? Can you use
So
a
what we'd
cadet
like to do
or?
is as we're developing this program, what we'd like to do is talk with the city manager is start a cadet program.
That's,
And part of that program is to do parking enforcement.
I mean, so that's good
Right.
for those people.
Yes.
To, introduce them to a facet of law enforcement and
so, yeah.
also less costly.
Exactly. And another plus to that is, we're always recruiting. So if we get a good candidate, we can send to the police academy.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
No,
from
Chief,
council?
I think this is fantastic. It's elegant. It's non-invasive. It gives the warning.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody, I don't know how much everybody leaves this town, but we're one of the last downtown areas that does not charge for parking.
Yes.
And if you've been to Royal Oak and the horrors of Royal Oak, this is a win as much as there possibly can be in order to keep those parking spots the way they're supposed to be timed. So 100% support. Great work again.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else? Closing off comments here. Any comments from those in council chambers? Going once, going twice? Great. I'm looking for a motion to go forward. You have in your package a sample one, if we could bring that.
I move to approve the agreement with Ballpark LLC for the purchase of mobile parking enforcement system in the amount of $1,503 and a one-time charge and a monthly software subscription of $600 pending approval from the city attorney and our insurance carrier.
So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
Support.
We have support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this too. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Go get those
All right, long
devices.
time coming.
Whatever. Thank you. We'll go to section C now on new business, contract award for Orchard Drive, which will be one of the opportunities for 2024 here. And yes, we have spent some money on roads, $10.2 million in the last couple of years, but we have $24 million on infrastructure on roads and really water coming up. So just not that we're answering questions from earlier, but we did. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So in front of you today is a recommendation for award of contract for Nagle Paving for this year's 2024 local road reconstruction program. This year it consists of Orchard Drive. That's what was part of the RFP and the bid process. We did receive 9 bids, which is quite a bit from what we've seen in the past. Nagle Paving was still the lowest, and looking over past year's work with Nagle, it's been recommended to move forward with them again this year. I do also want to note it's in my council memo that we are also looking at other streets for 2024. Our engineers and myself and our proposed contractor have already took a look at a few other options, more of a rehab of a mill and fill than a full reconstruct.
Great.
And then I also want to mention, as part of this, talking about streets, is that we're working with OHM right now with an updated PACER and asset management plan for upcoming years of streets.
Why don't you tell them PACER? They don't all understand that.
Yep,
rating.
that is rating of the street. It goes scale from 1 to 10. 10 obviously being the best, 1 being the poor, the worst.
That's in aggregate on our streets, correct?
Correct.
And where were we a couple of years ago and where are we today? And what does good look like?
So we were back in previous, it would be 2018, I think we're 17. We were, I think, a 4.7 or 4.6. We are, as of 2 years ago, because I don't have the updated one yet, they just completed it actually last month, but I don't have the numbers yet. We're up to a 5.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what
The
good is
goal-
six or
The
better?
goal is a 6 or better.
In-
Actually,
for the system.
yes.
Correct.
So actually the goal was 5.9, but everyone just rounded up to 6.
We're gonna round it up to 6. We're gonna, okay, I'll hold the rest.
Don't get too excited. The roads are getting better.
Slowly, yes.
So the difference that we've been doing with this study compared to the rest. So it's ideal to do this study every 5 years. So last time this was performed was in 2017, 18. Now we're doing it again. What's different is the past studies looked at the surface and see what is out there, current conditions, look at the cracking, the potholes. What this study is looking at is that, also including our infrastructure needs.
Absolutely.
But they're also doing core samples of the roads. So as in the past, other studies, they look at a road and look as a possible candidate for a mill and fill, which would be a quick, easy fix, a very cost savings to the city. However, when we go out there and investigate, it's not the case.
Right.
These core samples will give us a better understanding of what the road is made of. We'll see what the surface is, what's underneath it, and we'll be able to plan for the future and get actual cost.
Great.
So when we look at a mill and fill and we schedule for one, then we have a contractor come out and rip it up and realize, nope, now this is going to be double. That the plan is not to have that.
Yep.
So.
And you may not, mill and fill is, they take that asphalt up and they repave it in the back. You can't do that on all these historic streets like Rogers over there. We took it up, we rebuilt everything underneath, new drainage, new pipes. So it is not as simple as you might think. So that's why it's a little bit costlier for Mike.
Core samples will give us the understanding of what we can do. Can we be in a mill and fill, taking off the top 2 or 3 inches, leaving the bottom as a base? Or do we have to start from fresh, rip it all out, all new base?
And then.
So I want
something to
to
add?
mention as well, just to get into that a little bit further. So once a road gets to a certain condition, it can't be milled and filled. It has to just be a full reconstruct. So you want to get the right road at the right time and do the right fix, which is extremely cost efficient to do. So this data will give us a lot of information in conjunction with the water main work, which you mentioned, the 24 million over the next 5 years. We'll
Right.
be doing some work on roads because when you take a road out to do a water main, a portion of that road has to be replaced, can be replaced by the water fund. So we'll be doing more work there. But also additional to that is that it is extremely expensive to redo and reconstruct an entire road. So you can see on the agenda tonight, it's about $1.1 million to do a reconstruction. What's the distance about of that road we're reconstructing?
I don't know.
Four blocks.
Yeah, quarter of a mile. the
4
max.
city blocks, 5 city blocks. So reconstructing a road is extremely expensive to do. You can't reconstruct all your roads. It's cost prohibitive. You want to do the right fix at the right time, which is a mill and fill when it's appropriate, and then save your reconstruction when it's actually absolutely needed. So this will give us great information. And then with all this data, we'd like to come back to council and have further discussions about if it is appropriate to have another discussion about more road work, potentially coming back for a discussion about bonding, something that might go to the residents for more discussion, because this data will give us a lot of good information to have that conversation in the coming months. So excited to have that talk with council.
And I just want to also mention, even though, so this study that's being performed right now by our engineers will give us a perfect guideline of what we'll be trying to achieve. We still have an unofficial one with our water system. So we have a plan right now already in place for what water projects we want to incorporate over the next few years. We're also going to touch, that's the plan with the streets as well. They're meshed together. So now having the two studies meshed together, we'll be able to coordinate properly.
At that point, Mike, will you be able to put out some kind of a forecast or pathway to a PACER rating? Because I think it's clear, or it's not clear to our residents that we're getting better or when we're going to be better. And then when some roads will be improved. Like I'm actually stunned Linden didn't get on this sheet because it's rough as any, but I also know that the water main is being replaced next year. And then as part of the major fund, then Linden and Linden Court get replaced to get that old lead line out. But unless you're sitting in these meetings, you don't know that.
Yes.
So we need to find a way to have a plan or something that's visual, a glide path that shows what our PASER rating is, the targeted roads, what these cores say, and what we're going to do over time and say, everybody, just so you know, it's subject to change, but this is the best that we know it, because I think maybe it's also worthwhile saying that, and George, correct me if I'm wrong, or Mike, that we are almost exclusively responsible for our roads, correct? They're not county.
Correct. Yes.
And so we absorb that cost.
30 miles.
And so to George's point, it's exceptionally expensive. And I would submit that before this council and others were seated, that when we got down to a 4.6, and it was probably worse than that, there was probably years and years of neglect, I assume brought on by coming out of the 09 crash and then the write down of property taxes. And it simply didn't exist to have the funding that needed. And then to your point, as these roads erode over time, the cost isn't linear with the amount of time unserved. So now, because going back all the way to 08, 09 or earlier, the lack of service and maintenance in those roads, now we have a slow, painful process to catch up. Is that essentially fair?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And that is the goal of our.
But we need to socialize that. So clarity is king on this one. That at some point we need a pathway to show a communication, say, we understand it's this and we got to get to that.
And I think with that additional data, we'll be able to do that. One of the problems of the bonding from several years ago was that it may have been overly optimistic because they planned to do a number of resurfacings of roads, which were much more cost effective. But then, as Mike said, when they began to do the resurfacing, they realized there was no more road bed to resurface and they had to do a full reconstruct, which price 3 times or 4 times the price. So we ended up doing a number of roads that were surprises where we had to spend a lot more money and it burned off a lot more of the road money. So this data will give us ways to give much better estimates of how many road projects we can actually complete. And then giving people, there's no certainty, but much more certainty. If we were to have additional funding, this is what we believe we can do over 3 years. And generally you have to spend bond proceeds over 3 years. So you've got to plan these projects out and do them pretty quickly. But with the water projects and additional road projects, I think we can see some pretty big improvements in the coming years.
Yep. And then another key factor just to mention as well is I mentioned our infrastructure, but there's many other infrastructures that do impact our scheduling as well.
Right.
As when we look at a forecast.
Sure. Any other questions
Just
from Mike?
one more Nagle. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman.
It's good. Actually, most of my questions have already been addressed. The one thing I would highlight, and I know Mr. Pike brought up the roads earlier. We had a discussion on that in depth at Coffee with Council. I do think the discussion, George, that you just raised of the original bond, I get a lot of questions of where are those dollars? And PACER rating just looks at that top 4 to 6 inches. And so we discovered those roads were in a lot worse shape, required full reconstruction, and that bond money's gone. And so that's part of the process here as you work through in the timelines. But I do think as we get this engineering study, as we get the PACER ratings back, it's a fair question to say, what is our plan and timeline? Recognizing the water infrastructure, what years do we plan on the roads being done? And then if things move, it's because as we're getting these studies back, we're learning the actual damage to the road itself, how deep it is, and how much funds we have. Reality is we can't spend the money we don't have, so we've got to plan accordingly. But that is, so just to respond a little bit, one, fully recognize we need to have that timeline out there. And then I do want to make sure people know that this is a priority, because the whole goal of doing the further study and understanding the state of our roads makes it so that we don't just start patching them and then having to redo that every few years. So it looks like we're repairing our roads, but we're actually not, and we're spending way more money to do it. So
more efficient.
There is a plan in place we're trying to work through so we can give a real timeline.
Just a final, so for the 1.1 million.
Yes.
So there's also a lot going on with trying to fix problems with stormwater management. Coming off Clement down Main Street and then just blessing Orchard Heights with all the water. It's right. It goes
We
all the way.
appreciate that.
Yes, it's so in this, how much is water and coming out of water and sewer fund and how much is,
Yep.
I
so-
know we've already
Yep.
budgeted
So
for
when it
this.
comes to stormwater, it actually comes out of our local major fund.
Okay,
Yep.
so now, but is there,
Sanitary and water is a separate fund.
so this, is there any of this sanitary and water?
None of this is.
In
If you-
zero,
if you
okay.
Remember, about 2 weeks ago, the sewer lining on Orchard, that came out of sanitary.
Mhm.
I think it was 110,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lined
They've
it.
been lining it
Mhm.
past a week and a half.
Right.
So, but there is stormwater maintenance and improvements that are being implemented here, especially right there at Orchard and Thayer, where there's a lot of issues. And then also some of the grading farther down towards like Spring
Oh,
area.
okay. So that'll improve that because that's been a big headache and
Also,
flooded basements.
Another key thing to add to this is every single intersection is going to be upgraded and improved so that crosswalks are ADA accessible. So that's something right now, if you drive down, every intersection is not. It's being proposed that we will.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions from council?
Nope.
Any questions from those in the audience? This is,
Oh, you
you can come right up to the mic.
Well, with regard to the timing of this, I'm not understanding why there isn't a public set schedule that we can get access to. I mean, and why we're only 2 streets done last year and 1 this year so far. I mean, it didn't even keep pace with the streets prior to 2021, which were more like 5. Then it dropped down to 1. And now we don't even have a schedule as to what's intended in the future. So it seems to me that should be easily.
I think we can get back to you.
George, do you want to speak to this, given I know you're working with Mike on defining that schedule relative to the
Well, I think
water
when you look at the amount of surfaces that were redone, you have to look at whether was it a mill and fill of a street, which might be a very cost effective. You could probably do 5 times the amount of streets if you did a resurfacing. This is a reconstruction of the street, so it's $1 million street to do one stretch of street. So in the past, when you're looking at doing more streets, it might well have been that there was resurfacing of streets, which again is much more cost effective. So that's the data we're going to get and the information we're going to get from this study to be able to decide what streets will be replaced because there'll be infrastructure done underneath them, what streets need a full reconstruction and what streets can be mill and fills. And then an appropriate plan can be developed with all of that information. So I feel like we're on the cusp of getting to the issue you want, but you can't just look and say, well, this many miles of streets were resurfaced 3 years ago, now 2 years ago and that. You have to look at what type of work was done on those streets because some of them are much more costly. $1 million of resurfacing would probably do 5 times as much surface street, but this one has to be reconstructed now.
Okay, so I have taken time, as I've divulged, to literally photograph every single street that looked like it needed some pretty heavy repair.
We appreciate that.
And I literally took 175 photos. So it's really, it's confusing and even difficult to understand how in the world you're ever going to end up with addressing so much of a problem that we have. It seems at the pace we're going, some of the streets, as I mentioned, Eaton Street to the south, that Fort, it literally, in parts of that, is getting down to dirt. And it's not going to last. If you say, well, we're going to do that one in 2029. Well, okay, it'll be a lot easier because there won't be any pavement to remove.
I think the pace that we started, we went out for $5 million of bonding when we first kind of came in here. And there's 3 other pockets of money we went after. So that was that $10.2 million worth of streets. We are gearing up for $25 million worth of water activities that will redo some of those streets. We'll get back to that pace. It's just a matter of financial resources. And we're going for we're actually ahead of a lot of different communities out there. I know it's unbelievable. And I live on Eaton, so I understand that, duly noted, but we're there. Okay, so I'm done apparently. Good. Thank you.
I'll just conclude by saying, and please, if I may back up, please don't follow this $47,000 that you're spending on OHM to further a project that's going to cost millions.
Thank you very much.
Put that to fixing our streets, please.
Got you. Jeff. And again, sorry, we got a little bit into back and forth. This is a customer. This is a
I'm sorry.
citizen comment. Go right ahead,
Meeting's
Jeff.
running along. Jeff Snyder. I'm just gonna give some reflections on the street that was paved in our neighborhood about what you might consider in the future. And Nagle did a beautiful job on it and everything went well on it.
Right.
But the one thing one of the disappointing things was it's an old neighborhood, like a lot of neighborhoods in Northville. And because it's so freaking expensive to tie the existing sanitary line from the sewer into the home, right? I think the bids were $16,000 for one home and 19,000 for another. I think it would be prudent to actually to find a path where everyone can connect their 50, 75 or 100-year-old lines into the system through maybe some kind of a program, a payment, it's applied to their taxes. Because what inevitably happens is, and I've lived here for almost 35 years, is we went through the last repaving on our street. Within 2 or 3 years, you get a cutout. And then the next year you get 2 of them and 3 of them. And that contributes to the degradation of the street. And I know there were a lot of people who asked about it, but they just simply couldn't afford it. So that's I think something that you guys should consider if it, and by the way, you might be able to get a bulk quote on it so that it's $10,000 per home and give every person an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anybody else on the streets? Great. I'm closing out public comment on that. I'm looking for a motion to go forward with Orchard Drive and the program that he's put in front of us from Nagle. Do we have?
Yep, Mayor, I move that City Council award a contract to Nagle Paving Company for the 2024 local road reconstruction program in the amount of $1,095,166.70 with a 15% contingency for a total of $1,259,441.70. I further move that the Director of Public Works be authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Great. So we have a motion. I'm looking for support. We have support of that motion. Any other discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Start building some roads. Thank you very much. Next one, let's go to D, professional service proposal, Main Street improvements, OHM advisors. I believe that's you, George.
I can just start off with it. So this
Between
is
the two of you.
This is between the both of us, yes. So this is a discussion we've had for some time about providing engineering services to give a look at the main block of Main Street to see if it's appropriate or feasible to do a flat or curbless street there. As people know who've walked downtown, the street at this point is failing a little bit prematurely. There's some concrete bands in it that have not done well. It has a lot of gravel that has come up. It's been cleaned up and patched up temporarily, but the street is not in generally good condition. So this is a proposal for $42,000 to do a 2-block engineering study, the main block of Main, and then all the way down to Griswold. Griswold is not projected to be a curbless street, only Main Street, the main block. What we're looking at here is a street that's curbless that facilitates outdoor dining. It facilitates placemaking. We've heard so many people talk about wanting a true pedestrian way. When the street is closed from traffic and open for pedestrians, it really facilitates a very nice and easy walking path and destination. If there's concerts, outdoor events, festivals, anything in the street. And then if the streets are open for traffic, it functions perfectly as a street as well. So many communities are making use of these. And like I said, they also facilitate outdoor dining because there's one continuous pad from the sidewalk into the parking lane that makes it very easy to set tables and chairs. So also, one thing I want to mention is this is looked at as a DDA project. We are looking for a portion of engineering costs coming from the city, but the DDA has its own funds that it collects, and those funds must be used within the district. So if the DDA were to endeavor to do this project in the future, there's no decision here to do this. Those funds would come from the DDA. They cannot be spent elsewhere in the city on other road projects. They must be spent within the district only. So that's why this project is appropriate for the downtown. It can't be used elsewhere. And I think it does make a very nice project. Also, if the council decides not to move forward with a curbless street, the engineering work we're doing here is beneficial to move forward on a reconstruction as is at some point in the future. There's elevations and all that you would take across the entire project that would be useful as base information for moving forward with any road reconstruction project. And also I would note that the block down to Griswold has not gotten any of the surface treatments, the curb and gutter, the brick paver areas next to the sidewalk that the rest of downtown has. So it actually has not had the benefit of the earlier reconstruction from, was it maybe 10 years ago, Lori, that you can nod on? Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that this is an area that needs some attention. This is really getting to the feasibility of a curbless street, but giving us some good information. And then from that, council and the DDA would have to have discussions about launching forward into the next step. This is not a decision to move forward. This is a decision to get more engineering study, elevations, and then with that good information, be able to determine if that's a direction you want to go and the DDA wants to go. Mike, anything to add?
Yep, and I just wanted to mention the portion of Main Street between Hutton and Griswold. We looked at a mill and fill there about 2 years ago, and we've discovered that's full reconstruct. So perfect example from the last agenda item, this item here, which would require full engineering. Here is, we're looking at some preliminary engineering to help out with that.
Great. And we are always looking for grants and some COG opportunities and different things to assist on some of this placemaking in downtown. So we have 3 or 4 options to
So,
assist.
yeah, thank you for bringing that up,
Yep.
because for this particular type of project, this is feasibility. We
Yes.
don't know, nor do we know. Part of it
Yep.
is also good design, because you can have a curbless street that looks awful. Or one that's well designed. So this is just preliminary assessment.
Right.
But the other is that this is the kind of work you need to go for a grant.
Mhm.
And unlike for all of our local streets, we're not going to get any state grants for that, through that. But core downtowns, particularly now, they do have set aside funding for Main Street improvements. They call them Main Street improvements.
They do.
So this has a funding, this is an opportunity for a grant that we do not have for our local streets. So, and this is the type of base information that we would need to consider it. And given that's forward thinking, even if we decide we did want to do it, you need this information to even go for a grant that's even further out. So, and this has been discussed at DDA as well. So.
Absolutely.
And I did want to just add to that, this does give you the opportunity to do and more shovel-ready placemaking grants. Placemaking grants for downtown activities are probably one of the more ones that we would really be in line for. And, MEDC and various grant opportunities where with this information, you'd be able to apply for those grants. And I think that this would create a project that would, we would score well on.
Absolutely. MEDC, STEMCOG, others, Southeastern Michigan Organization of Government.
Yeah,
So
Michigan
they're always
Economic Development is the,
Right.
so.
Yep, and there's other grants like safety grants, which.
Absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of times they do look for shovel ready.
So in this case, for this set of 2 blocks, it's a distinction with the difference from our discussion on Orchard Street and our challenge in, there's roads in horrible condition. So it's
Absolutely. Good.
Okay.
Any other points?
Mike, I got one. So my tombstone's gonna say, by the way, he had multiple bids for this tombstone. Did we get multiple bids here? Cause I did not see it. I know it's only $40,000,
Yes.
but if we can have a section like every one of these reports and say multiple bids were or were not pursued for the following reason, like maybe it's a small amount, or if there's a strategic reasons, but just to make that clear.
Yes.
So that's something we really want to push, because just like the Mayor Pro Tem said, everything we need to do has a compounding effect. And so we also got to play defense with our money and bid where we can. So I know you have an answer. I just want you to speak.
Yes, so our other consultants, Spicer Group, we did get a quote from them as well.
Okay.
They did come in slightly lower. However, the lead engineer for our city of Northville is no longer working for Spicer Group as of last week. So we have to reevaluate that consultant currently.
Okay.
how much lower was it?
Not much. It was not
Minimal.
minimal.
But I'm going to echo, we sound like an echo
Absolutely,
chamber,
yeah.
the for bidding.
Always multiple
We have
bids
said
on
this
everything.
multiple times, so.
Yeah.
Everything we do.
So one of the points of doing the pre-qualifying for the two engineering firms was so that we had two qualified firms. We looked at a total of 7, I believe we interviewed 7 engineering firms to get to Spicer and OHM as our preferred engineers. They gave us unit prices for all their engineering levels so that when we had quicker projects like this, we wouldn't do a full bidding, but go to both of them, the qualified engineering firms, and ask them for proposals. But if it's bigger projects, we will be bidding it out to all the firms, open competitive, but it was for the quicker projects. That's why we did the pre-qualifying step. Is that a fair?
George, maybe we just, and I know you're busy enough as it is, and maybe you just have a couple paragraphs that you just save on another Word document, but have a paragraph on sourcing strategy and say multiple bids were pursued for the following reason, or if you are pre-qualified and the bids were low, or this was a single source bidding due to a strategic need based on one, and just have a couple lines just to set the table so that the community knows that we're being good stewards of everything that.
The 7 that we reviewed down to the 2. We picked one of the 2.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
Great.
All done that good stuff.
So I'll chime in. It's a fired up group tonight.
It is.
So as George knows, I initially was a little skeptical of this discussion. We've talked about it a lot. One, I think that DDA's opinion and DPW's opinion is going to be critical. This is 100% a partnership discussion, and the opinions from those groups and the bodies they represent, I think, is very important. I echo the thoughts like everyone else on the multiple bids. When I started doing a review of this, the thing that popped out as I learned more about it is if you're looking to manage runoffs, if it's a location that has special events where you are prioritizing ADA accessibility, economic centers with retail and restaurants, and it has an impact of reducing vehicular speeds of cars coming through that area, all seem to resonate with the section of town we're talking. And I do think it's important to point out, this is just Main, this is not Center, this is not in any way tied to the prior discussions. It's specifically for those blocks. I think this is more of learning about what that looks like, how it could come together, what's the implication. Cost will be a huge factor, in my opinion, from a long-term perspective. So I think the references to grants become a critical part of making it even an option. But I think recognizing we need to repair the road no matter what. We know we've got issues there. Repairing the road in the current way when there could be a way to do it better and more effectively and where it would actually last longer makes a lot of sense to me. So taking the time to do the due diligence and make the right decision seems like a good strategy.
Absolutely. Anybody else in council?
And of course, Mike, just one last thing is, just to be clear, like when and if this comes, because this isn't a contract to do work, it is, as long as we're keeping an eye on Katie and anything that's going on Katie there.
Yes.
We can just make sure it's like we're watching both. And so we're not doing anything with our east-west traffic. That would be.
Absolutely. Okay. Anybody in council chambers that have a comment on this? Come right up, John. Wait till you're at the microphone so they can all hear you.
My question as a resident of Bealtown that's often impacted by whatever happens is, I've heard that this might be like a year from now or so. I think maybe George, you might have mentioned that it would be maybe spring of next year. And then it would last.
Probably a little optimistic at this point, but I think earlier on I had said that, but I think that may be.
Well, I think the coffee for.
Okay.
That's way
But the point is with all this construction that's going to be going on at Center and Roundabout and Katy Street and some of the low grade infrastructure going on, I would hope you would think it might be wiser to wait a year for this process. You know what I mean? To wait and see how all that pans out before you spend it. So I'm not saying you might not find utility out of it someday, like it was discussed up here, but holy crap, it's going to be crazy here next spring through next fall, crazy. And so if you want to avoid a lot of pushback from the community, you might rethink that. It's fair.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Also too, is within this study, I know they're basically looking at this as an infrastructure issue or whatever, but is there going to be time taken to really determine the impact of what's going to happen to businesses during all of this? I mean, that's got to be a serious matter because we're talking about, encouraging business while we basically take out their sidewalks and curbs and everything for how long? How long will this take? how badly will businesses be impacted? I can't imagine that that won't be a negative impact while we argue for quote, are closing the streets so we can build up business. Now let's tear up the streets so we can basically discourage business. I can't imagine it's a short project. That's my main.
Thank you. Don't have to. Anybody else on this subject? Come right up. Greg, full name and address would be great. Thank you, sir. Once you get to the microphone.
My name is Greg Steffel. I live at 21991 Ironside Court. And I think the only thing I would say to this is that why did we spend all the money to put the ballards in if we knew we were going to have to tear up the streets anyway? If they were in such disrepair, why'd we spend so much money to put the ballards in if you guys knew you had to tear up the roads anyway? That's all I'll say to that.
Thanks. Anybody else? I'm closing this off for public comment. Now I'm going to ask for a motion that's in your package right now. This is on section D, professional services, Main Street improvements. Looking for that proposal. You have a sample if you want to start from in your package. Do we have that?
Point at me. Oh. I don't have it in front
John,
of me.
you're so good at it.
I don't have it. I don't have
All right.
that motion in front of me.
Move that city council approve the professional
here it
services contract with OHM for the preliminary and engineering of Main Street improvements in an amount not to exceed $42,000, and further move that the Director of Public Works be authorized to sign this contract on behalf of the city.
So we have a motion. Do we have support of that motion?
Support.
Support. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we're on that edge. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so let the record show 4-1, 4-1. I knew we were on the edge. Again, we're still on 9(9)E. If you're following in your packages here, council members, a proposed service proposal for the Downs Program Management for Engineering Services, OHM. Would that be, yep, George?
So this is a professional services contract. We don't always bring professional services contract policy to council, but we thought this was an important one to inform about what we're looking to do here. So this is a contract beyond the typical engineering services that you would have in a construction project. Typically, there would be a permit process for underground infrastructure being installed, and the engineers would inspect that infrastructure to make sure that before the city accepted it, that it went in the proper format, it was to code, it was what we expected it to be and of the right quality. This is a contract for a similar caliber of employee to do additional inspections and project oversight on behalf of the city. So a combination of this contract, in addition to a building official that will be hired, those two individuals will be doing additional project management and oversight down at the Downs project. Everything from dust control to noise to all sorts of practices you'd expect to see on a well-run project. That's what these inspections will be for. So this is not a commitment to spend up to a certain amount of money. This allows up to spend up to that, but we will only use the engineering services or oversight that we believe we need. And it will be in combination with a employee building official that will be the primary person probably, but this person will be key in assisting in overall project sort of oversight and management. You want to add anything to that, Mike? Did I miss anything?
Nope, you nailed it. Also just want to include that OHM is here if you had any questions.
Great. And permitting will assist the financial
Yes, that's a great
resources
question.
for your.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is not anticipated to hit the general fund of the city at all. There is building permit fees and overall permit fees from the project paid for by the applicant when they build the project, and overall project site management will be a part of that. So the building official's time, the engineering time will be paid for, anticipated to be paid for by engineering and by building permit fees. So it's not It is a cost of building the project that they're paying, that the developer is paying, not the residents of Northville.
Okay, I just wanted to
Good
make sure
question.
that. I
Yep, I
understood
thought
that.
about that. and didn't-
Absolutely.
Forgot to
Can
say.
you say that last part again? The
It's-
developer is paying.
Yes.
They pay
They,
building.
they pay for the
permits.
inspector and they pay for
Correct.
most of them.
Yes.
Yes,
Uh,
not out of our general fund.
two questions. First, this is, if I'm not mistaken, is this not a director level role? So this is somebody with significant expertise who's seen it before and knows the games contractors play. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
I think if George wants to talk about this.
George, please.
Yeah, because we didn't get their CVs,
Yes,
so.
do you want to talk about the level of person and who you, and the backup and support they have?
Go right ahead, George.
And the lead field engineer, Phil Malley, has over 40 years of field experience, just covering field projects for various municipalities over the last 4 decades. So he's well seasoned. He's not shy dealing with contractors. Just has tons of experience overseeing construction projects.
Okay, good, because I didn't want somebody who may not have had that seasoning to be up against the developer that's there. So if it's
He's
somebody
the right person for
who can
that.
call balls and strikes for the benefit of the city, that's good. Then the second question is, in this function, will this person have the ability, or what is the function or the process? Let's say if not enough water is being put down, or we are getting dust that's blowing into Bealtown or across the street, will that person have the agency to be able to suspend activity? Or how will that work?
I mean, he'll be coordinating with the building official. I mean, the city has that authority, not OHM.
Okay, but he would
he'll
be,
the eyes, the ears, and communication with your staff and.
okay.
I'm the inspector.
So, yeah, so Mike, if and George, if there's a process where this person who's our eyes and ears, who's living down there, sees something that's obviously affecting the adjacent community and then is able to communicate quickly so that we can level set expectations to our construction requirements, then I think this is fantastic. And I'm
Power and authority to shut it down or
Yep.
put more water cannons or whatever.
Well,
it needs.
or whatever it might
Whatever
be
it
at the
needs to be.
time. Yep.
So I am grateful there's going to be more eyes on this. And also to hear that there's quite a bit of experience. I understand the person is not here in the winter, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to kind of go into retirement
Okay,
slightly.
but
So
we
in the
have a-
winter, he's not working full time. So I have a backup for the winter months.
Yeah,
So
so
have
I just,
somebody with
yeah,
that
so
body.
I talked to George, which to have somebody with that level of experience is great because they're going to have a lot of tough talk based on what
Oh,
we're
yeah.
seeing so far.
Yeah.
So that is great, but are they going to have good coordination? So it isn't going to be, in this case, it is he said, she said, so that they can, you don't have the continuity with that OHM contact, but I'm
I mean,
assuming.
in the winter, certainly the construction activity will be
Yeah,
less.
dive down, okay.
The weather will be colder,
All right.
you'll be in frost for a lot of those months.
So, I mean.
So it's
Not
not
as
as
much.
active.
Sure.
So I look forward to getting that seasoned business, building official,
Yes.
working in coordination with these for eyes and ears. Because what we've seen so far, when would we, I mean, demolition's only been going on a while. And there's got to be accountability. There are problems on that site. And I know there have been conversations with the city talking to them, and they keep doing it. So we just need to get tough. And I think doing it early is, and this is no newsflash in terms of my opinion on this, doing it early is important to set the groundwork for what's unacceptable behavior. And that when we say something as a city in our oversight role, we mean it. And we're just holding them accountable to what they committed to doing. So just think, so I'm glad. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you for getting that seasoned person.
We also
Getting
included another staff member, Madison, who has extensive experience in public outreach, so she can assist the city if needed. In terms of communications, public outreach, that's part of the scope if needed.
Great. Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions from council members? Anything from those in council chambers, going once, going twice? Closing that off. So, I am not.
Got in under
closing
the
out.
horn.
Nancy does.
Got it.
Nancy's stepping up.
Nancy, it's all yours.
I wasn't
I didn't
planning
see it.
on talking tonight,
I
but
can't believe it.
you guys made the little red flag go up
Thank
for
you.
me, so I thought.
Go right
I'd do
ahead,
it.
Nancy.
One of the things is I am Nancy Darga, and I forgot my address, 516 Center Street. And as you know, I'm currently the chair of the River Restoration Task Force. So we have been dealing with the multiple of engineering firms and now contracting firms on the Downs project. we have a lot of experience on this project on both sides of the aisle. I mean, from what we know from the engineers and the contractors working on the actual building of the project, they're pretty experienced, and I am equally pleased, Barb, that we are getting both a building person and we're getting the help of OHM. OHM and I have been arm wrestling for what, 40 years now. I used to be chief of design for Wayne County Parks, and I know they're tough. I have scars to prove it. And they have a few of their own to prove that I can go toe to toe with them. But anyways, but this is what the red flag went up for me. It's the community's perception of what's going on. If it's true or not, they have a certain perception, and we need to give them a way of being confident that we have a team put together to work out any problems that are going to happen on that site. And as someone who managed construction projects for 25 years, what will go wrong on any given project. And Mother Nature always throws some surprises in there on top of it. But what they need to know is we have a competent team working together. And I don't like adversarial roles between inspectors and contractors. I've been caught between that for most of my career. What I want is an attitude of we're going to work together, whatever the problems are. We're going to work together to resolve them. And I'm going to really push on that because this project is huge and it's very complicated. And we've got FEMA involved and Eagle involved.
Yes, we do.
And damn it, we got a mayor involved.
Yeah.
So what I just want to promote that. I'm not interested in a fight. What I'm interested in is taking care of business on this project. I would like to know how soon the building inspector that we hope to hire will be brought on board so that I could sleep better at night in terms of we've got the whole team together on this project. Thank you.
Great. George, get with you. Days and weeks is coming. Absolutely. Anybody else? Anybody else? Once, twice? Nancy again? Okay, I'm closing off public comment on this. You have a motion in your package. I would like you to bring that to an example of that or modify that. What's in there? Does anybody have?
Is it okay as is?
It is okay.
Oh, okay. I have moved to approve the Downs Program Management Proposal for engineering service with OHM advisors in an amount not to exceed $120,000 and authorize the Director of Public Works to sign on the city's behalf.
So I have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
I'll support.
Okay. Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call vote on that, Mike. It might be unanimous, but let's do it.
Sure. Carter? Yes. Janetti?
Yes.
Krenz?
Yes.
Moraski Brown?
Yes.
Turnbull?
Yes, great. Go forward, get it done. Take a bit. Okay, next one, we've added two different things. Correct me if I'm wrong on F, it's special events for Friday nights and the concert series.
Correct. So all we have here is we have a substitute staff report that I wanted to make sure that council had a chance to see. And that's what we're asking for. It talks about the days closed. What happened is we had two separate concert series, one Friday night and one Saturday night. And each of them said we would open the roads right after the concert, which didn't make sense because we would be opening the road Friday later at night, and then we'd close it on Saturday afternoon. And what we would propose here is that the road is closed Friday afternoon and open Saturday night or sometime after the second concert. So that we're not opening, and closing, which incurs additional cost and has additional staff coming in. So that's the primary change that we're looking for here. And so I think it can be approved unless Lori has anything else.
Anything else, Lloyd, add? Okay.
So that was that.
Any questions from council members?
No, but this will be, because we've got a red line version here, which I don't think that's in the packet, right? No.
Yeah, so we can go back and add it.
We can, yeah, can you
Put that in
make sure
package,
that
put
is
it
put
online.
in there because
The timing maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't change, and we'll add this back, and this doesn't change the recommendation that it was, but we wanted to make sure that the timing is proper, and you saw that.
So as long as it's in the packet.
Put it in the package. It's out there. If you went online right now, it should be on there.
So George, I guess first question, so we would be closing Saturday night in this current plan, and are we paying overtime or additional to close during the weekend shift?
Sorry, so what we did was, and Laura can correct me if I'm wrong, so when we came last time and did the concert series, it was a Saturday night concert series, which has the roads closing Saturday afternoon and then opening to traffic Saturday night. We came with this special event, which was for Friday night concerts, and we're going to do the same thing. Friday for the concert close, Friday after the concert, open the streets to traffic. We thought it did not make sense to do that and rather to keep the roads closed for the day and a half.
Sure.
So that we didn't have two extra times of staff coming in to open and close.
Right, and I fully agree with that. I'm just wondering, are we paying people to come in over the weekend rather than waiting until
On midnight.
Sunday or Monday, frankly, which is what the decision we made last week when we had this discussion was we wanted to wait till Monday because it was going to incur additional cost to the city by doing it on Saturday. So trying to just understand the sequence there and if we're adding cost to the project here or the effort.
So I think this says here that we would remain closed through the Saturday night concerts. It doesn't specify that it would be directly after it or Sunday or Monday. But we had intended to open it during the weekend, but we can look at that. We would incur additional cost.
Well,
Saturday night or
well,
Sunday.
if it says after, so through the Friday, Saturday, the original one before it's amended said until 9:30 PM.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's saying we want to open and close.
Well,
It's a-
yeah, not only that,
Friday to Saturday night is what they're saying.
well, and Saturday night, like 9:30
They have to have a
PM
time.
doesn't make sense because sometimes the concert runs till 9:15. People have to disperse. People are maybe grabbing a bite to eat or whatever. So it makes no sense to try to put the
Night
bollards
or
down.
first thing
No.
Sunday
Not at
morning.
9:30.
I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Yep.
People are enjoying the street. 'cause
So what is
they're
the
not-
vision? I guess the question,
Yeah,
later Saturday night.
Later Saturday, Sunday morning, it could also be beyond. So
So it's,
Okay, so we don't need to specify that here.
I don't think so. I mean, we would have a little bit of discretion to see how to handle that and
okay.
how to close it.
But we'd give public plenty of notice in advance of these, so they
Yes.
would know what
Yes.
streets, because that's part of this.
Next, I'll do the information be on the website. Okay.
The other thing I would just highlight, and I mean, these are fun and wonderful events. I'm glad people are planning them and the one last weekend was absolutely fantastic. I have had a few reach out on Center Street being left out of the mix so far. Doesn't impact this one, but just making sure as we're planning events, as we're working with the businesses to think about how we draw people into town where that, we're making sure we recognize both streets and are doing everything we can to support all of them, all of our restaurants and businesses.
And that was recognized at the DDA. DDA only had the funding to do, people wanted more big bands. So DDA, that cost more money, versus the solo artists acoustic.
Mhm.
So to do that, they couldn't do the Friday and Center Street and the Saturday night big concert. So that was, they only did the Saturday.
Yeah.
Chamber came in and said, oh, we'll do Friday, but we're going to do it in Town Square. So they didn't go with what DDA, it was different. But they've been very well received on Center Street, the acoustic concerts there. So, but it is what it is. So,
Yeah, just something that we continue to keep in mind.
yes.
That's a great point, because I think what we learned this last weekend is obviously there's a market for this. But unfortunately, Main Street becomes the center of gravity and the businesses on Center Street really had a bad weekend. So we need to be cognizant of this as kind of a district of both streets and how we're going to manage that. So we can get businesses that are going to also thrive on Center. But I know that's slightly outside of this, but it's something we really want to keep an eye on.
Well, in addition to concern over the businesses that are very supportive of having that closure because their businesses thrive, there is great activation of Center Street that's very organic.
Yep.
There's a lot of, because there's restaurants on Main, there's more room for kids, doing the different street games that are there and with their families and just, sitting in the city chairs because there's more tables in the streets down in that way. So, or normally when they're closed. So it is, so I concur that Center Street should not be lost. I also think those two streets create their own placemaking versus a novelty street, which is just Main. So.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Great. Any questions from those in the audience? Come right up. Come right up, and there's somebody behind you too. Go right ahead.
Oh, I just have a concern.
Name and address again. I know we got
I'm
it
sorry.
once.
I'm not doing a speech. I legitimately have a question. I'm Annette Mullet in Villa Drive. The question I have is how is Center Street supposed to do all the outdoor dining when they're closed, open, closed, open? I mean, you physically cannot do that. So what I see happening is we're going to lose all of Center Street if we don't do something about my prior speech. And this is a legitimate question, me not being winded, but I mean, that's unrealistic what you guys are saying. So we're open for a week, and what do you expect them to do? That's a lot of labor, a lot of money, I mean, we're not thinking about it from their perspective. And I feel bad for them, and I'm not tied into them in any way.
Understand.
Richard Graham, Carpenter Street, move Northville 4. Wasn't going to speak on this subject, but what you guys just talked about was craziness. I mean, you're going back and forth and around because, again, a small group, let's open Northville. They've caused chaos. They've caused all this. And frankly, they should. Everybody should know who they are and what they are and where they are, because look at what they done. You guys went back and forth. I'm sitting back there. Is it open? Is it closed? Is it closed? Is it open? Should I come down this weekend, next weekend? How about the visitors that if the city doesn't have that money or the businesses don't have visitor money, they don't thrive. So how do they know what's open, closed, closed, open, open, closed, closed, this day, that day, this street, that street? A small fringe group, look at what they did to this city. And I mean, I'm not the nicest guy in the world. They should pay for that. And they should be remembered for a long time of what they did. Thank you.
Anybody else on this? Going once, going twice. Closing off public comment on it. So we are on F, special event, Friday, Saturday.
I'm assuming we need a motion.
I'm looking for a motion for that. Yes.
Can I ask a clarifying question before we get to that?
Absolutely.
All right, so one question I did have, and I probably should have spoke up earlier, is so this overlays what would have been what was voted on last year of seasonal closures for this concert series. And George, maybe you can help me out with this because I wasn't able to piece it together until even with the redlining on here. If the seasonal closures do come back, what happens to what's in this documentation?
So it has really no impact. So the point of the closure for the Saturday night concerts we came to council and for this one is because there currently isn't a seasonal closure. So we have to make sure we have the permission from council to close the streets for the weekend or for the duration of the concert.
That's
So
this would be null and void.
This is null and void, and the streets are closed during that duration, and then we just have the concerts and they're closed. So am I wrong on anything there? So yeah, so this is just an add-on because of the injunction.
Okay, because I just want to be absolutely clear. This is in no way showing my support for some kind of weekend closure on Center after everything gets resolved. But this is something that's in the short term, what we need to do while we're in a litigated process, correct? Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, so that's why I just want to make sure that that's clear. And then this document is then superseded should we return, or if we don't, depending on what comes out of litigation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and not coming out of litigation, just in the short term, we are, asking for a reconsideration of the injunction. And we're also going to do an emergency appeal depending on what the judge decides on that reconsideration. So, I hope, and I think we should prevail, but we have to have a plan, right? And so this is the plan. And plan B.
But regardless to any of the litigation, we can still have our Friday and Saturday concerts.
That's correct.
That's it.
That's exactly
And then
right.
the only thing we're very confused about, one of the only things Richard and I will agree on is that the timing, like what is it? Sunday, Monday?
So I think I have to go back and look at the language of the injunction to make sure we're adhering to the language of the injunction, because I'd rather get direction on whether that's Sunday morning, or can we, in the interest of preserving overtime and not bringing staff in, can we go till Monday morning? I haven't had an opportunity to have that discussion with the city attorney or our attorney for the litigation. So I don't want to say either way at this point.
I understand.
And that's why we just said until through Saturday night. I don't know, City, I didn't prepare you for this question, but.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a special event, and I do think that the council has the authority to determine when the special event ends, but we don't want to keep the roads closed too far outside of the realm of the special event because it is getting close to the line of the injunction.
Also, may I interject, is per our risk management, I actually do need to know a closure because I have to do a special event and I need to know when the time frame is for each event that we have.
We have to know to vote.
So at this point, Mr. City Attorney, I think I'm gonna then say that Sunday morning would be the time, because otherwise we are extending it a day for staffing and cost, which I guess at this point, that's what we'll say.
I think that's consistent with the injunction.
We're gonna say opening till Sunday, that the streets will remain closed to vehicular traffic till Sunday morning.
Okay.
All right. Friday afternoon to Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Got it? Got it. I am. This has been followed by many people from the governor's office, from the legislators, from SEMCOG, from a lot of different people. So
Officially pro Friday night concert, and I look forward to the next one of these discussions. Are we ready for a motion?
we are ready for the motion. I would
All right.
like that motion.
I move that the Northville City Council approve the request to conduct the 2024 Friday Night Concert Series in Town Square as outlined above, provided the appropriate insurance documents are received by the city clerk within 1 week following approval.
Do we have?
Friendly amendment on Sunday morning. Mike, is that what you would need on there?
Yeah, Yes, I need the definitive timeline.
Motion, or is that just in the?
But I
figured
think
that
it's
would
in-
be the.
Or can we say as amended to Sunday morning?
As long as I have a time, Sunday morning that works for them, because
But do we need that in the motion, or is the fact that it's going to be in the minutes established?
George, I would request that be added to the background.
Yeah, it can be added to the,
Yep, we'll do it to the background.
because
I
that's.
just want to make sure we're all clear.
And then I would like to reject
Give me.
We can-
Councilman Kranz's.
Okay,
friendly
please reject them, please. Okay. So we have a motion and rejection of Sunday amendment.
I will remember.
Do we have support for that motion?
I'll support it.
Okay, the motion properly support. Any other discussion? Seeing none. I think we'll do this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We have one more thing that we moved down. Now it's to G, the proposed contingency for the River Park. And who would like to go through that? G.
Yeah, so this is when we approved the demolition contract with Renaissance, there was not a contingency. And as things change, it was realized that we should have a reasonable contingency of somewhere in the range of 10%. So it's proposed by staff to have a $50,000 contingency added to this contract.
Great. So it's just in case of overruns on there. Great. Any questions? That we put this off the consent agenda, we put it on here just to
I
make
do have
sure.
a lot of people
Please.
just getting a hold of me, talking about the dust.
Yep.
All the mitigation on that, if we could just keep it at the forefront.
Okay. Absolutely. You're right.
Here.
George, the only thing I would, so 100% agree. I think mitigation, dust control is going to continue to be a theme we talk about in every one of these meetings, and we need to stay on it. The only thing I was going to add, George, is the additional contingency would be still covered under the ARPA funds. Correct. So this is not, while we would be making a motion.
Not under general
approve a
funds.
contingency, there would be no impact on the general fund.
Correct. And it shows, it's reflected in the chart that it's actually from further spending in that area of ARPA funds. So.
And I do support this. Usually we do have a contingency and we didn't, but I didn't support the demolition contract anyway, but not because of this portion. This is the River Park parcel, which is the smaller dollar amount. And this happens to be covered under ARPA. The other is under the Brownfield redevelopment plan. And that was the one that I was very concerned about. The amount they have bid and their scope of work was outside what it should have been. So this one this is great. And it does not include the track parcel. So I'm very comfortable with this and grateful that one's not getting a contingency.
Great. Any other questions for George? Anybody from council chambers? Going once, going twice, closing it off. I'm looking for a motion that's in your package for this.
I move to approve a $50,000 contingency for the River Park demolition contract with I always say it right, is it Renaissance Inc.? Get that right?
So we have a motion. I'm looking for support of that motion. Do we?
I'll support.
Okay. Any other discussion? I think we can do this too. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. We have it approved. Good. So we are going to section 10, mayor and council communications. On this, just want to remind everybody, we live in one of the most outstanding communities in the state of Michigan. Rated each and every quarter as one of the top places to live and all the things going on. We have to remember that. Yes, a lot's going on. We can do it because we have 6.5% of all of our people on boards and commissions and task forces. It's because of, as I look out there, a lot of you are making this happen, whether it's Riverwalk or farmers markets or Ford Field or the downtown social district or the other activities or the $10.5 million of infrastructure. I say this all the time. Each one of those would be the biggest thing we've ever done in Northville. We're doing them all at the same time. It's because of each and every one of you are involved. So I thank you for doing that. This past weekend, it's a great example. We had a skate park dedication out in the township, 1,000 people out there. We had the downtown closed off. We had bands playing. It was the Derby time. It was a great place to be around Northville. And it's because each and every one of you, I saw about half of you at one of those things this weekend. I thank you for all you do for making Northville what it is. I know we have some opportunities right now. We will come together and we will get through this. But no, as people are looking around the state, you have a lot going on. It's because of you. This would be Canton with 6,500 people working on boards and commissions. Everybody is in all of the 6.5% of the people in North Monday. So I thank you for what you do each and every day. Without a strong business section downtown, we won't have a strong community. We're trying to do everything we can to assist the businesses. So that's all I have. Others from council?
I was just going to say, number one, thank you for, we had a lot of public comment tonight and we also received a lot. And I'm very grateful, one, for citizen involvement and also thank you for many of you who actually stayed for our whole meeting.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that. Also, just a reminder that our next coffee with council, where we can have more back and forth, is at Toria on Saturday, May 18th. And that's in the morning. So it starts at 10 a.m. So there's that. And then one thing came up about the tree ordinance. The planning commission it's tough to edit a tree ordinance. And they have really been working on this for over a year, going back and forth, but they are having another discussion with at least a draft. It's not ready for prime time yet, but for discussion it is. So that's tomorrow night at the planning commission meeting. That's at 7 p.m. here. So I know that was a concern and it does make some, at least where they're heading is some substantive changes to residential tree removal. So.
Excellent.
All right. I can go next. First, I will echo the comments of appreciating everyone staying as long as they have. Often there's feedback that we're not responsive during the citizens or the public comment. And we try to sometimes weave in responses, but it often doesn't fit. And then usually the room's empty by the time we get to this point in the meeting. So I do really appreciate staying through all the details of the things we're covering. Couple quick comments. We've discussed community quite a bit today. Community takes many forms. A few of us had the opportunity to attend the Kentucky Derby luncheon put on by Northville Senior Services last week. It was a wonderful event. Andrew and I had the opportunity to partner with one of our members of the Township Board of Trustees to serve food and also judge what was a very competitive hat competition.
Very much so.
I just want to thank everyone involved in the event. I thought it was wonderful and I think it highlights the best of our community and how everyone came together for it. Also, a special thank you to our city's first responders who were actually called on during the event to care for a local resident who collapsed in the community center. Their response was timely, professional, and heroic. We probably don't express our appreciation enough. So thank you to all of our first responders.
It was a pickleball.
It was.
It was a
It was next door at pickleball. They were rather old. Go ahead. Next one. Anybody else?
Okay, so here's the problem with this group is you check off all your stuff that you were gonna talk about. I was excited about planning tomorrow, the Derby Party and Unity Skate Park, so we'll just blow right through that. And I just want to reiterate what I said last week, and I think this is, or last session, this is absolutely critical for this community. Northville is not just the buildings, it's not just the streets, it's this ability we treat each other with, especially when we disagree. Personally, anytime a comment becomes personal or the argument becomes reductionist regarding an argument, I shut it off. So the moment you become personal, whether I agree with you or not, I shut it down. Our kids read social media, my kids read social media, and your kids read social media. There have been things said about me and said about others where my daughter will come home from school and say, guess what they said about your dad today? That is not the Northville I want to be a part of. So everybody's watching. Everybody needs to be civil and stay on topic. That's one. And here's what I know right now on some things. I would go for 20 minutes if I could, but I won't. Amazon, Etsy, DoorDash, Uber Eats are all coming for our businesses unless we offer the 300,000 people who consider our downtown, their downtown, something special. Full stop. That changed with COVID and it's never going to go back. They're all coming for us. And if you don't believe me, go walk through Laurel Park. Laurel Park's dead. It's down to one chain store that owns the building and is going away. Now, the question we all are going to have to ask ourselves is what do we want for our downtown and how are we going to get there? But it's not going to get easier. So now we have to think about what are we going to do to attract the 300,000 people, our neighbors regionally, to come visit us and what that means. Consistency in the short term is critical for branding. What do I mean by that? On Saturday night, I ran into my neighbor and I talked to my neighbor like you wouldn't believe. He's actually sick to see me when he runs back inside. He did not know that downtown was closed until he walked down there. You do not establish a brand, especially regionally, unless you are consistent. And you cannot deploy capital in the long term correctly as a low margin business unless you are consistent. So an expectation from all businesses and all of our neighbors in everything we ought to do is consistency in the short and long term. It's critical. We can't keep ping ponging back and forth because we will lose the community. We will lose customers. And like I just alluded to, Amazon, Etsy, and everybody else is coming for our businesses. So we have to decide what kind of downtown we want. We cannot replace preservation with stagnation. Doing what we did 5 years ago or 20 years ago or 50 years ago isn't going to work. And why do I say that? This is not a scientific list, but what I'm about to read you is all businesses that went under in the few years before COVID started in our downtown. Yogurt Palooza, Next Chapter, My Little Paris, Nomi, Bricks Second Owners, Ruffles, Rococo, Moon and Me, Rock on Main, Haven, the florist on Dunlop and Center, the event planner at the same location, the consultant at Stemville, Urge Juice Bar, and the Hot Yoga Center. Now, retail is hard here. Let's not get in their way. So what the voices of the businesses are and the voice of the residents are. And the one last thing I'll say, it's been such a blessing the last 2 weeks. The number of people who have come forward in this community and said, I'm tired and I've had enough. And what you see now and the data I'm collecting and the number of people who are in full support of where this city needs to go is way more than I thought it would. And I am so excited and invigorated. But for now, we just have to wait and we gotta just let the legal process play through. And so with that, I'll be done.
Anything to add, Laura?
I do. I owe this guy a few answers. Hi, I'm Laura Janetti. I've lived here for, could you, or I can, whatever. Thank you. Oh, no, right there, this guy can see you just fine. I've lived here for 46 years and I love Northville more than I dislike you, more than I dislike street closures, more than I dislike parking issues. I love Northville. So just make sure you have that in your forefront when you're talking to me or about me. What you say about me behind my back is none of my business and I don't have social media. So go for it. But I do have a lot of friends. So, all right. Number one, I am not suing the city. Number two, I am not a part of the Let's Open Northville. Number three, I haven't voted on street closures once since I've been in city council. There's been nothing. Four, I do not hide. I live in a fishbowl. Everywhere I go, everywhere you go, there I am. I promise you. As a matter of fact, this is only the third time I've ever seen you, so that I'm interested in how long you've been around. In the Ville, I did state that I was running on street opening and I still won. So I'm sorry. Now, do I want the streets closed? If you're saying I flip-flop, I don't feel as a flip-flopper. I feel I love Northville more than I dislike the street closures. So my thing is participation and activation. I work 70 hours a week in downtown Northville, every day, all day. If I take a day off, you catch me on a day off. I see the participation. I get it. Everyone loves to be there when it's fun, when the sun is shining. This lady makes such great points. The one about it's Michigan, we don't know when the sun is going to shine, but we do know when the businesses are going to be open. We do know hours of operation. And instead of investigating me, ask the businesses, are you open on Sundays? Which one of you are? Maybe you guys could close Monday, Tuesday, and open Sundays all day. I'm just asking for you to watch more than just blindly closing the streets. I want activation. Saturday was awesome. Saturday was great.
Absolutely.
Some of the restaurants closed at 6 o'clock for private parties. Hey, that's their prerogative. The streets stayed closed until Monday. I don't know that they were busy on Sunday. Maybe you can ask them. Go on a mission to make the street closures better as opposed to worrying about people like me. I paid my dues. I've already paid for my stuff to be out on Main Street. Have I, Lori? Genetti's is paid in full, maybe not on their water bill, so don't go looking for that.
They'll be looking at the water bill.
Definitely, don't go thinking on me.
Water is gold,
Yeah.
baby. Water's gold.
All right, so
Yeah.
my thing is, we're good. Also, there's so many things that I didn't come here to get the streets open. I can do more, not on city council. I came here because of process. We have growing pains right now. Bobby, you and I, we're in a great spot. We're young. We love this town. We don't need to fight. We need to come together. I did not run to open the streets. I ran because of process. I ran because I want to know what's going on at this level. And if I don't make a difference in 4 years, Richard, I will not run again, but I will still live here and I will still work here. What other, did I answer all your questions?
I think so.
All right.
I think you did a fine
And
job.
then I think that's it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, the growing pains. We are so lucky to have those. We have lived here. This town has been around a very long time. We don't even have sewer. Water, we need everything. What we don't need is this. I don't like the streets closed, but I don't tell 400 people a day, my customers don't come here because the streets are closed. You know what I love is when they come and they don't ask me, why are these streets closed? I don't have to explain it. On Saturday, I didn't have to explain it. Every other day I have to say, to help the businesses. And they'll say, well, no one's open. Well, I know, but so no one wants this more than me in the correct way. But right now we have some growing pains. If we have to say June, July, August, kick it out. If we have to say 6 months, if we have to say just weekends, let's pull together and quit bringing each other down. This is getting, I mean, you can dig on me all day. I went to high school here, buddy. Everybody knows everything about me. But you will like me just like George did when he first got here.
Thank you, Laura. So no, the council members up here, they're giving 20, 30, 40 hours a week for the city of Northville. They're doing everything they possibly can. Every one of the council members and myself, we love Northville. We've been here for generations. We are doing everything we can to assist the downtown. So no, as Laura just said, we're trying to come together, doing the right thing. We're ranked as one of the best towns. We have to show people we are one of the best towns. It's because of our people coming together. So I thank you all. Truly, a couple of you said you hung on right until the end. Usually people say their spiel and they leave. I thank you for hearing everybody in council tonight. I thank the council members for all you do and all you've been doing, not only this week, this month, but for the years leading up to this and for the generations. So with that, I'm looking for a motion for adjournment. Can I have that motion?
I so moved.
Do I have a second?
Very much so.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you.